Yo, welcome, my fellow randoms. My name is Kev Duffy, and welcome to the 19th episode of What's Your Random Podcast, where I discover and celebrate independent and individual creativity from the inception of an idea to the process and the practicalities of bringing that idea to life in various mediums. The medium that we're going to talk about today is this one, podcasting, with my guest, Tyler McPhail. But before I introduce him, I want to shout out you, my listeners, and give you thanks as I am on the road to 20 episodes in 2020, pushing it out on the last day. But I want to thank you for listening, for subscribing on any and all podcast catchers and apps, and also for sharing if you dare, because if you dare to share, that will indicate a lot of care, and the rhyming will end there. So stupid. Yeah, sharing really does go a long way, and I sincerely appreciate it as we try to capture a wider audience who we will benefit. I think people aren't going to listen to this podcast if they don't benefit from listening to other creatives describe their ideas and their processes. So if you think some of your friends may dig it, if you think some of your friends may benefit from my conversation with guests and all they have to share, then go ahead and push this out onto the social medias to help us capture those ears and all of those prospective creatives and potential fellow randoms. After the show, as usual, I'll do a quick wrap up talking about key takeaways and also areas where I think I could improve the podcast moving forward. Without further ado, I will now introduce my guest. Joining me today on What's Your Random Podcast is Tyler McPhail. He is the mastermind, the puppet master, the coordinator of the Grand Geek Gathering, a podcast network that goes 9 podcasts deep. I had a really fun time speaking with Tyler. It was a blast, and I hope you have a blast listening to it. So joining me on What's Your Random Podcast from the Grand Geek Gathering is Tyler McPhail. Enjoy the random.
This year sucks, but at least I have this one show, and the new episode comes out tonight, and of course the internet went out, and I was just like, well, now it's just got rid of everything. I got the moment of course, and but yeah, and so yeah, it's strange how before when the internet goes down, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks, but whatever. Where now you're just like, my whole world's crashing. Like,
yeah, I need this to survive. I need this not only to like,
I need to forget about the world, and the internet's the key.
Yeah, but not even just forgetting about the world, but also to connect to the world. Like,
that's
it's
true.
Both sides of the coin, right? To disconnect and immerse yourself in media, as we all do, and also to connect with you, like,
yeah,
you know, and all of my guests so far, and to connect with our families during the holidays as we're in lockdown situations. Like, I'm not going to be able to meet my folks or any of my friends or family, and I'll rely on Zoom and FaceTime to do so. So yeah. When the internet went down today, it was like a little bit of reality trickled back in. The reality that I've been trying so hard to escape.
Yes, absolutely. Like one thing that's keeping me absolutely sane is not only having my partner with me, but I created a Discord and learned all about Discord, and we have our own one for our website, and it's just always active. And there's people who I've never met before who are just fans, or people from all walks of my life. Like currently, like right now, there's people just hanging out my voice chat. None of them know each other in real life. Like one's out here who is one of my co-hosts on one of our podcasts. Other one's one of my friends I met years ago at WonderCon. And another one lives in Colorado who does PR and marketing for a comic book publisher. I guess they're gone. And then like another one of my friends who I knew from doing stage work when I first moved out to California. all talking and just hanging out like constantly. And it's really crazy. The connections that wouldn't have been made hadn't, or possibly wouldn't have been made without all this. So it's also kind of like crazy and magical in that kind of way too.
Yeah, and in that way I've been trying, coming up on the new year to think about, well, what, everything that is coming out and everything that's being projected at me is 2020 was the shittiest year of all of our lives, and like there's in January something's going to be released on Netflix. It looks like some sort of show that is a couple of different actors talking about how shitty 2020 was or something. Anyway, that's everything that's being projected at me. And I tried to consider it from the opposite, perspective, like what good has come of this? And maybe I wouldn't have started my podcast. Maybe, your community would not have formed in the way it has on Discord. So
it's been a year of loss, and it's scary. It's crazy. I've known way too many people who've gotten it, people who have gone, or people who know people who have gone, and it's really scary. But of course, like, to keep saying, you have to hold on to like some of the good, and that's like the one thing that I'm trying to do instead of like kind of engulfing me, because it's crazy hearing about, like, I think right now currently I know around 15 people who have it, like right now by this moment.
Wow.
And that's terrifying to me. Like, I don't leave my apartment for anything. I went to the dentist today and I was like all numb and messed up, and I was on Discord, and I wasn't gonna stream on Twitch, but I was like, I probably shouldn't. It's not a good idea. And and just do like, hey, I'm numb. Watch me play a game. Try to play a game, all drugged up. And but like, besides the dent, like, I did this just because my insurance is coming up. But this is the first time of me like leaving my apartment and going to an actual place, I think, since like November. So
wow, yeah,
it's insane.
It is. And are you in LA?
I'm down in Orange County, which is like just right below LA, but trying to walk my way back up to LA. That's where I moved to. I'm from Texas originally. I'm from Austin, and so I moved out to California to do like voice acting or just any kind of entertainment. And then I got a job at Disneyland, and I moved down to Anaheim just to be closer to it. And so I've just kind of stayed in OC since then.
Oh, okay, cool. And there's not a better time to actually introduce you than now, I suppose.
Oh.
So welcome to What's Your Random. My guest today is Tyler McPhail, and he is the creator, mastermind, puppet master of the Grand Geek Gathering. And I was really happy to, before my internet crashed today, listen to a couple of episodes and made sure that I was up to speed to some degree and got a feel for what it is you guys are doing, which is really fantastic.
Oh,
and
thank you.
I hope to dive into, how you manage this podcast empire that you are at the helm of, and learn more about that and learn more about you as a creator. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. This is awesome. I love guesting on things. It's kind of nice, like being on a podcast I don't have to do anything for.
Oh no, the pressure. Suddenly a wave of terror and pressure.
Oh no, I didn't mean like that.
No, I'm just kidding. But I am slightly intimidated given your credentials. So, take the microphone, take the stage, so to speak, and maybe just explain in your own words what the Grand Geek Gathering Triple G threat. I don't know exactly what you refer to it as, but
we just call it GGG or anything GGG. Really.
Okay.
Whatever anybody wants to say it, I'm totally down.
Okay, I'm coining right here and right now the Triple G threat. So in your own words, please tell us what it is.
Well, right now we're just kind of more of an entertainment website. We have 9 different shows. One's on hiatus, but we are essentially just celebrating geek culture. And outside of what's of this year, we also did live programming at conventions and stuff. And we're actually working on and starting to do other live events as well in LA, but then this hit like the month of. And so, but yeah, we are basically just an entertainment website that wants to celebrate, talk about, and basically just love geek culture and everything in it, and also have an understanding of it. And sometimes drink way too much and talk about Bruce Willis a little too much in one of our shows as well.
I unfortunately, well, I heard some Die Hard references today, but I maybe didn't hear all of the Die Hard references.
We have like a bonus series called Drinking Dragons. That was actually a YouTube show that we were going to pitch at the Travel Channel, but we got a little cold feet, and it was just, we were like, it's not ready yet. We got to keep going, and then life kind of happened. But and so we started just doing it as a podcast, and I think we were talking about just Bruce Willis commercials in the 80s because he did a few of them, and they're all really weird. And so we just talked about it for like an hour, and then it just keeps like kind of coming back and just kind of diving into that fun.
Yeah, and I think on Netflix they recently did a Movies That Made Us, and Die Hard was one of the featured titles. I don't know if you saw that, but I guess they introduced that he was really just a commercial actor, and then they pulled him in like out of the blue into this Die Hard hyper action hero.
It was role. Like nobody wanted to touch this movie. Like, they asked like everybody, and then he was doing, I think, moonlighting at the time, and they had a pause in shooting and filming because his co-star, I think, was giving birth. And so they had a break, and I think a 3-month break, and they shot almost all of the scenes within those 12 weeks, which is like hilarious because it's kind of like ironic now because he can shoot like almost an entire action movie in 12 weeks, where now it takes like 3 weeks for him to film like 5 minutes of a scene. Like, I don't know if you know anything about Kevin Smith's, like when Kevin Smith talks about working with Bruce Willis, but it's a little funny.
That's very funny. And you're highlighting right now one of the things that really impresses me about your shows and, you know, all of the your collaborators is your like referential ability to have all this information. Like,
it's terrible.
I'm really bad at that. So anybody who could pull a name out of thin air that I like vaguely remember and then pull up the name, I'm like, oh yeah, it's that person online. That always impresses me. So it's among a couple of questions I've kind of prepared for today is like, where do you think that comes from? And is it, you know, to maybe answer a little bit of the question for you or add to the question, is part of that in the preparation, or do you just have this awesome ability to recall?
Thank you for saying awesome. That's awesome. So I'm very open about it. I'm very severely ADHD. If you can't tell, I can't sit still. And so I love keeping busy, and I love learning about especially just film and television, or just any form of entertainment now. Like, I grew up reading a little bit of comic books, not too much, but now I just love, I don't read a lot of comics anymore. I just read reviews and watch a bunch of YouTube videos or live on Wikipedia to learn more about it. I don't have a lot of free time anymore, unfortunately. I guess we'll dive into that later. And so I just love learning about a lot of stuff, and it's easier for me to like read like the cliff notes of things, and it's a lot harder for me to actually sit down and read the actual material because it's hard for me to sit down and just concentrate on that. If I can just read a 3-paragraph Wikipedia, like little section, that's good for me. And if you're a geek, don't do that. I'm not a good example. But I lived off of IMDb when I was like, I have always loved film since I was younger. My dad, because I liked Adam Sandler movies and stuff like that when I was younger. And my dad was like, no, you're going to appreciate good films. So he showed me like The Day the Earth Stood Still, Arthur with Dudley Moore. I'm trying to remember all the other ones. Ruthless People with why am I forgetting everybody's name? Danny DeVito and Bette Midler, and like just this whole library of like really, really good films that were definitely not okay for a 10-year-old to watch. Some of them, especially Ruthless People. He was like, he was like, I forgot about this scene, and that was like almost every scene. He's like, I forgot about this scene. I forgot about this scene. I forgot about this scene.
And would he tell you to divert your gaze, or was he like, I forgot about this scene?
And Marx Brothers, which I think is like my biggest influence as to why I am the way I am, which is really sad. No, I'm just kidding.
Duck Soup or any
yes, Duck Soup,
okay.
Duck Soup, Night at the Opera. I mean, I love them all. I actually have, I don't even know where it is. I have a marionette of like Groucho Marx sets. Was worth a lot of money until I moved out to California and lost his cigar and shoes. And now he's like, I looked it up online, and it was like, if it was like everything was there, it would have been like $4,000 for this thing, and now it's worth like maybe 50 just from like tiny little shoes and a little wooden cigar. And
it shows that contemporary pop culture is not the only arena in which geeks live.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, I love film. I would say like the biggest things I geek out about are probably musical theater, film, the Muppets, as you can probably see Baby Fozzie behind me. And man, I'm trying, I would say DC Comics, but again, I don't read the comics. I just read Cliff Notes and I just do a lot of research on it. So I can't even say DC Comics anymore. And Dragon Ball Z.
I love that, and I'm excited to listen to the episode of the rankings. What's the title of the show?
Our most extreme ranking challenge.
Yes,
our 3-hour podcast of us arguing, bantering, and most importantly, bargaining. Like, please, if you don't pick this one person, please, I'll be your best friend. I'll do anything for you.
So for like, let's just jump into that one specifically. Can you lay the ground rules and the structure of that podcast for anybody listening today?
Yes. So I am friends with 3 awesome comedians who all 4 of us have very different opinions on things and different ways we grew up in different states and different everything. And we're all huge geeks. I met them all through the convention circuit, and they're amazing guys. And Matthew Johnson, Lamar Harris, and Marcella Samuel. And so I came up with this idea a long time ago, and I didn't know what to do with it. But essentially what it is we pick one subject, and we have to rank. There's always like BuzzFeed articles on like everything, a CBR and all these other websites and stuff where it's like, 10 best characters in Dragon Ball Z. And it's always like the most boring ones. And it's like always Piccolo number 1, as deserved. First off,
I'll agree with that. I'm a big fan of Tenshin Han though.
Oh my God.
I like the Dragon Ball. I love the Dragon Ball characters more than the Dragon Ball Z characters.
I prefer Dragon Ball because it's funnier, and I feel like Toriyama just got to be more of himself. For Dragon Ball Z, I felt like he had way more pressure, so he was just like, I just got to make this epic now. Like, it's not. I feel like Dragon Ball Z is awesome, or like, because that's still considered Dragon Ball in the manga. Like, it's awesome, but I feel like it was more pressure on staying a blockbuster and for more on to focus on sales as opposed to like being part of the story. Because even if you read the manga or if you watch the show, like Dragon Ball is like funny, hilarious, and weird, and then Dragon Ball Z is just like super like oh Goku, and everybody just screaming and yelling at each other. And
that was pretty spot on for the voice actor.
Oh, thank you.
And it really is like. Just consistently upping the ante, and that's where over 9,000 plays in, right? Like, essentially.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, that's just like illustrates that Dragon Ball Z is more about upping the ante, because it's over 9,000 said by Vegeta, and then 9,000 was blown out of the water very soon after.
Yes.
What? Or yeah, was it said?
No, it was Vegeta, and then Nappa just be like, what, 9,000? And then just Oh man, But
sorry, I derailed us. I derailed us from the.
That's my life. That's how it is. With ADHD, everything is just like. We actually have a show called Anyway with Sam and Tyler, where we have the subjects, but we're both ADHD and hyper, and so the whole point of the show is to try to stay on subject. And so we say, anyway, but we never talk about the subject usually, if you listen to our show. Anyway,
and that's the one I was listening to when I was fixing my router today, was your Christmas episode.
Yeah, we were supposed to talk about Christmas, and I think we just started talking about the Disney, the Disney stuff only, like from the most part. But yeah, so most extreme ranking challenge is so it's us with another guest, either just a friend of ours, a comedian, an actor, a writer, or whatnot, and we all propose our rank, our whatever the subject is on each one, but we go from each ranking up. I'm really great at explaining things. I'm really not. So, but okay, so
no, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So we all, we did Dragon Ball. So we all had to present, okay, the 10th best character is blank. And then we have a judge at the end of the round who picks theirs, and they can be either selfish and pick their own, or they can go with everybody else's. And everybody throughout the entire podcast has one card that they can do to challenge the judge's choice, and then we do a democratic vote, and then we move on to the next one. And usually we're actually changing it because we were like 3.5 hour long podcasts are a little too long. So now we're just doing top 5, bottom 3, but we were doing top 10 and bottom 5. And so I liked the top 10 because 10 through 6, you're like, yeah, whatever's. And then you get to 5 and you're like, oh my God, this person's not on the list. And you're like, what did we do? And there's like instant regret halfway. And we're just mad at each other and being like, why would you make me make this decision? Like, why did you let me mess up? And it's just, it's a great time.
Yeah, and you're for anybody listening, and I'll try to get this out before Christmas, but Christmas is 2 days away. Your Christmas episode ranking reminded me. It was a great reference for me because, like I said, I have poor reference ability. So I'm sitting here with my girlfriend, and she's like, so what do you want to watch for Christmas and Christmas Eve? And I was like, I know there's a lot of Christmas movies I really love, but usually that's my brother's role because he has a memory like Tyler and he has referential ability like Tyler. And so I was like, should I just ask my brother what I should watch? But your episode featuring Christmas titles was really good for me to be like, oh, I should pull that back out. I should look that up. I should watch that, add that to the list to watch this, tomorrow and the day after. So it was a really cool reference. And I love, and you described it perfectly. It's not just list building with your friends. This is a competition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you have to strategize. If there's something that you die hard want on the list, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can present it as being third on the list and then say, it's also going to be my second choice. If it doesn't make third, it's also going to be my first choice if it doesn't. And then that way there's some gamesmanship because you're signaling to everybody that I want this on the list. If somebody, if I say I want Home Alone on the list on the third ranking, and I say that I absolutely need it to make the list. So if it doesn't make third, I'm going to put it again and propose it again at second and again at first. And if Tyler knows that, you wanted it in number 1 slot, that you have kind of vote of confidence.
Just to get it in there. And that's kind of like how it was with Lamar does that very much. And we did we were ranking the Halloween candy, and Crunch Bar was his easy number 1, but he knew that it wouldn't win. And so he was like, I'm putting this as number 5. And this is my number 1, but I want this. I need this on this list because I won't talk to you if it's not on this list. And so, but it's funny because after we record, days later, because we're in our own little Facebook and Discord chats and stuff like that, and then it will bring up man, why did I forget this one thing? Or I can't believe you did this. And it's I would love to kind of incorporate that somehow in some fashion of our conversations afterwards, because we're all very passionate about our arguing, regardless if we care about the subject at all. It's just we want to have the most picks. And we wanted the list to be closest to our opinions.
And what dare I ask, what does the winner win?
Oh, nothing. Bragging rights.
Yes, exactly what I thought.
1,000%. It's more just I can't believe this didn't make the list. And then somebody else is being yeah, well, maybe you should pick better. You would have won it like me. And that's which is gratifying with your good friends.
Right. And is his name Lamar, who wanted the Crunch Bar?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Lamar loves his Crunch Bars. For
And
me,
was
I'm a
Lamar
Reese's.
all was he also the one that was proposing Charlie Brown Christmas
No,
adamantly?
that's Matthew Johnson, who would
Okay.
not let. Yeah, because we
Because
were.
I was I recognize your guys the reason for disqualifying that, but I was fully on board with him. I was like,
I
yeah.
wanted it, but like because we have the first two seasons, like the subjects all mapped out, and so next year we were gonna do holiday specials, and we're very different. So like, and that
Uh,
was our whole thing. And Matthew's like, I don't care, it's both. Like it's gonna be on both lists. And I really, because I put number one for mine was American Tail, and I will still stand by that one. Like, man, I love an American Tail. A little
it's
fightful.
been a very long time since I saw that. And it's funny that it came up in that episode because my brother, who I'm very close with, and we talk geeky stuff all the time, he recently brought it up and was talking about how amazing it is and how
Yeah.
long it's been since he watched it and recommended I check it out again. So yeah, and also the sleepers that like you forget are kind of Christmas movies, but they are like Die Hard.
Yep.
Came up.
Oh man. It's I would say out of all of our podcasts, most extreme ranking challenge is my favorite. And like that's something that we're also going to be like focusing on more so like when conventions and stuff like that. Because we have our other thing that we do at like San Diego Comic-Con, Emerald City Comic-Con up in Seattle. We got accepted and I wasn't able to do it at New York City Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. It's I couldn't afford it. It was just like I can't do that trip yet. And so but it's called Unnecessary Debates, which is our biggest one, where I get a bunch of people to debate the dumbest questions I can come up with, either geeks centralized or really just random. And so it would be like, what would Wolverine do if he had to get a part-time job and stuff like that, or what would Colossus and Deadpool's first date be like and stuff like that. So, and we've had like some awesome guests on that. And we're going to start doing those on charity streams starting in January,
Oh,
bringing
cool.
it back because we were going to start doing that live at a couple places in LA for ticketed events and stuff, because we have people like Olivia Olson, who is Marceline in Adventure Time, who's been on several times and she's amazing. And my friend Jenny Jaffe, who worked on like Big Hero 6, and she has her own show that's coming out on Fox. I don't know now because of how the world is, but yeah, it's yeah, we have some really awesome, hilarious people who go on there to debate the dumbest things I come up with, and I appreciate them and their time.
And so far, is that just on live circuits and at Comic Cons? Because that one is not featured as a podcast. Am I correct?
It's not on a podcast. Because we were gonna start doing Patreon, and I was going to record them all and put them on there, and also on Patreon would count as the ticket. So if you pay on Patreon for that tier, that's also your ticket if you live in California, and that'll just be your ticket. You just show up and then you're good to go. Especially that was our the place that we were going to go to. That's what I would just give them the money for it, and then everything was good. And so, but when this happened, I didn't do the Patreon because I don't want to take people's money unless it's charity. So what we've been doing instead is if anybody does do anything, like I stream on Twitch and whatnot. And so anybody who donates or subscribes or does anything, everything right now goes to Black Lives Matters until January 1st. And then after that, I'm doing the Trevor Project until May. And so, yeah, I couldn't take people's money. I just even if I was giving them stuff, I just felt bad. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't want to, I didn't want to make money when people are like not in the good financial state, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think even in the best of times, I find that a lot of creatives find it hard at like an awkward, like, because you're
Yeah.
doing and creating what you want to create and do. And I find that a lot of people find it difficult to ask for money for what they're doing. But you are doing, I mean, so much. So, I mean, the question does beg itself is how do you wrap your hands around all of it? And what is your maybe we could start. I could start by asking a simple question, and we could build off of there.
You're totally fine.
What is your role, and what hats do you wear for each project?
So yeah, and don't worry. If you listen to my podcast, my questions are like an hour long. I feel like because I get distracted as I'm asking the question, and I was like, no, get back to the question. So, and I'm like, yeah. So for breakfast today, did you know that Bruce Willis was in a commercial for this in the 1980s? Anyway, how are you today?
Like, I didn't pick up on that, and it's probably just because we communicate in very similar ways. This is going really well for both of us, I think.
I wanted to reference Bruce Willis in commercials one last time before in this episode. No, so what I do is I run the website, and I essentially make sure I do a lot of the stuff. So I edit, schedule, and make the posts and do social media for almost everything. I have some people who also help. We have articles now. We have a writing team now. We started up just for extra content and to help out the website. Articles are really easy to share, and I have a lot of friends who either want like references so they can work somewhere else and get paid for it, or just want experience themselves because they went to school for it. And I just want to help them. I can't pay anybody because I don't make anything from this at all. And so if I could be a stepping stone on that, I would love to. And I would love to help them and whatnot. And of course I want this to grow, but nothing's ever determined. And so I have my friend and partner on that, who Sean, who is the editor, and so he does everything with the articles and makes sure people are kind of hitting deadlines. And I have a problem. I have a people pleaser, so I have a hard time expressing my concerns and and speaking my mind sometimes. So he'll help me. He'll help me with that too. So I give a huge shout out to Sean for that front. But other than that, on the podcasts, we have a few that are self-sustaining. Our Burn After Pitching is edited by the host, by Michael Tanner, one of the co-hosts. And the other co-host is Andy Nordval, who was on your show before recently.
And who introduced you. And he also, during that podcast, introduced the most extreme ranking challenge. Oh, yeah. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm terrible with names.
Totally fine.
But he spoke about that podcast and how fun and interesting it was, and he gave you a big shout out there. So
I need to get him on it too. Because that's our newest thing, and so it's like the thing like I'm really happy with, and like it's getting the best responses, which is fantastic. So I'm just really happy with it, because when I came up with the idea, I was just like, this is not going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to care at all. It's just going to be us recording it, nobody to listen to it, and is doing really, really well. And so, and so anyway, I edit all the podcasts. I do all the video edits for our shows like Pop Moses, Gamer Culture. We were doing some Let's Plays, but it's really hard to record them because away from each other. So those are on hiatus until I can meet up with my friends to do these Let's Plays with us. And so we've been substituting streaming with that instead. And so I stream as well. My partner she and I do all the marketing stuff. So all the Instagram posts and whatnot. So all the graphics, she's the graphic designer. And I do everything almost, it seems.
And
like.
So you're like in a sense a project manager for this big project that is called the Grand Geek Gathering, and I wonder how you structure that planning and scheduling and people management and getting things on time, and then your own job within that structure.
I think the weird thing, is really terrible of me to say as a content creator, but I'd rather I only work with people I like, and I will change for people because I'm a people pleaser, but like I'm really bad at email. Like I'm so bad at email. I just forget, and I don't, because that's all I do. I'm an auditor, and I am like client services for a big national company where I do 19 different regions by myself, everybody else, every other region has like 1 to 2 people. And so I answer like 150 emails a day. So when I do emails on this, I'm just the worst at it. And I try to tell people, usually I'm like, can you just add me on Facebook or Discord, please? And so like, I need that's the best way. So I usually just work with people that I kind of, that other people that I know who can vouch for me kind of introduce me to, or people I just meet at the conventions. A lot of people have named me as the con puppy because I just run around and I'm just so excited all the time. And I talk to everybody. And so that's like a way for me to kind of meet people. So, but yeah, the just short answer is if I click with you, there's more of a reason for me to, like work with them.
So yeah, you usually just work with people who friends could vouch for, or who you have a personal relationship with. But sometimes that can be difficult when there's deadlines and things like that. So do you manage everything that's going on? Because there's so much, I imagine there's so much going on at once for you.
Yeah.
And you're also working, full time in your emails all day. So do you use a calendar to help manage the project and manage people's
Google
schedules?
Is like my best friend. It terrifies me, and yet it's like my biggest tool. Like Google, like everything is centralized on Google Drive and Google Calendar for the whole team. Because I think right now we have, with all of our hosts, co-hosts, writers, and people who help me with social media and everything, and photographers and whatnot, we have a team of 35 people.
Wow.
And so, we have 9 different shows, and so a lot of them have like 3 or 4, or like in most Extreme Ranking Challenge has 4 co-hosts alone. And then we have another show called The Game of Rassilon, which is a RPG Doctor Who ongoing game with a cast of 6 people, with 6 amazing creators and who come together. And they're on season 3 is coming out very soon for that. And so we have a pretty big team, and we pretty much just use Google and Discord. So,
awesome.
And then everything.
And you're not in every show that's under the umbrella. So you're in 2 or 3?
I'm in Anyway, Most Extreme Ranking Challenge, the Grand Geekery, and Popmosis. So I'm in 4 of them, and then Indie Comics, because we have Indie Comics has 5 different hosts, but it's hard. Like right now, 2 of them are on hiatus because just for the state of the world, and they just need a mental break from the world, and that's the most important thing, is for them to take care of themselves. And so with the other 2, sometimes it's just hard because everybody's either working, and it's hard for them to come on or be online for the interview and stuff like that. So I'll step in case Andrea or Brandon can't make it onto the episode and stuff. Or if it's like with Indie Comics, especially because we've been doing like a lot of like Valiant and Boom comics, and like they'll let us know like the day or 2 days before, like, hey, we have this really I think Tom Taylor, they were like, hey, can you interview Tom Taylor in 2 days? And Tom Taylor's a very big deal at DC right now, and a very big deal in comics. And we were just like, yes, absolutely. But the other co-hosts weren't able to be on, so I had to step in on that one. So I'm always, I guess,
don't mind if I do.
yes, please. But so I'm in 5 of the 9 shows. Or 4 of the 9 shows with a substitute on 1 of them. And then I'm producer Tyler on Burn After Pitching, but I just come in and just ask and do the special questions. So it's not a lot of work, and it's a lot more fun, especially talking with the guests that they have on too. So which is Andy Nordvall's podcast.
Yes. Shout out to Andy again. And do you maintain a pretty strict schedule for releasing? Do you try to record and have a backlog so that you could release if you guys do hit a snag? And what kind of strategies go into producing a podcast or podcasts with some consistency?
It's tough. It just depends on the medium. Indie Comics, we will record usually a month in advance. It comes out every other week, but we're changing it to monthly. Just to make it a little bit easier. I'm trying to downsize so we can focus a little bit more on the marketing aspect and streaming, especially since we started doing charity streams and I have to coordinate with guests and stuff. And so a lot of the podcasts will like with the Grand Geekery, I have 3 episodes right now that are recorded and that are coming out all the way up until January 28th. But some of them are are like panel discussions and stuff. So it's like 3 or 4 people coming together and talking about a certain subject. And so scheduling those are just really tough. So I try to get them done a month, 2 months in advance. And so, and Indie Comics is kind of the same way. Potmosis, our video one, because it's a video and we try to not exhaust ourselves because Josiah, because Josiah and Paul came up with the idea and pitched it to me, and they wanted me to be they were like, we need a third co-host and we really want to do it with you. And Josiah is a father of 2 little girls, and so he can only record after 9 p.m. sometimes if they're able to sleep. So we usually record about a week and a half before, because we don't want to get too tired. We want to watch the movie. They like watching the movie multiple times, or me, I just watch it once. And I have an opinion on everything, even if I know what I'm talking about or not. It just kind of just like, I just use like references, and it's weird. Like, I guess it's just how, but everybody with ADHD I know has the same thing. So, so I'm good. I'm good after one viewing. Throwing shade at them, needing multiple. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. They're amazing, and their process is totally right. I'm in the wrong. Again, I read Cliff Notes, and and so like stuff like that, we record a little bit closer to deadline, where my anxiety goes way up. But all the other shows, I tend to try to record them way in advance so I can edit them, making sure the audio sounds good, making sure if somebody says something that maybe they don't want public. Like we had a guest on Indie Comics, so I won't say, who kind of dropped a bombshell and talked about like a really personal thing that happened with his family. And so I reached out to the publisher and I was like, hey, just want to let you know this sentence was in here. And I didn't tell him exactly what he said, because I didn't want them to know in case he didn't want it to know. And I reached out to him and didn't get a response, but he's also really, really big. And, probably doesn't check his DMs. And so I emailed them like, hey, something around this was said and it's a little personal, and I'm thinking about taking it out because we don't want scoops. We just want to celebrate. I don't want to be part of I don't like saying we're press, but I also like getting press perks from like going to conventions and stuff like that. So I'm like in that like weird little gray area, I guess. I try to be. So I don't want any scoops. I don't want them to tell us anything that they don't want out, or that is we had somebody who did tell us about a comic book. They accidentally said the name of it on Indie Comics of a project that was not supposed to be. It was an NDA and everything, and he was like, please take this out. And I was like, oh, I already did, don't worry. I was like, I figured it, because when he told it to them, because I watch it as they record to make sure, and when he said it, he just see his eyes go like that, like after he said it. And so I read it. I just wrote it down. The bead of
sweat started forming.
And so I wrote it down. I was like, okay, take this out. And so yeah, I want people to talk to us and feel comfortable talking to us. I don't want anybody's life to be like damaged by being on my show. So I want to be like, hey, we're gonna hang out and talk about blank.
Yeah, I like that. Is it at all, I mean, aside from editing stuff out, is it at all hard navigating some of the communication? And I struggle with it, and I start stuttering, and I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm really conveying what I actually mean, and that my words don't betray me, and things like that. But at the same time, what I want to produce and what I'm doing here at What's Your Random is supposed to be long form discussion. And if a guest says they don't want something, I'm more than happy to cut it out. But at the same time, I want it to be self-expression, self-discovery, self-development, questioning, learn. There's so much going on in the world, and it's hard for me personally to really understand how and where I fit in without meeting and discussing with other people. But sometimes I say things, or guests might say things that can be misconstrued or can be very easily. And I don't blame people sometimes for taking things out of context, but, so I do worry about that sometimes on my own podcast. And I wonder how you navigate that and how you feel about that. And Yeah.
Um, well, I mess up a lot. I stutter a lot. I talk a lot. And sometimes I will speak without thinking. And so, if you watch like Popmosis or Gamer Culture, where we have it on both audio and video on YouTube, the audio will always be a lot shorter because I will take out a lot of me stuttering or other people stuttering. Or if I usually it's always me. If somebody's talking too much and about something that has nothing to do with the topic, or I'm just repeating myself over and over and over again, which is what I do a lot. I'll take it out definitely in the audio, and then I add like GIFs and memes or other things that come up. Like I think the last episode of Popmosis film where we talked about Scrooged, I stuttered for like trying to figure out a name for like 10 seconds. And so on the screen, I don't know if you know this one video of like the guy with the snow shovel, and he's like falling for like 10 seconds and he just like gets up and throws it. Have you seen that video of that guy? No. It's like, oh, okay. Anyway, so I like, it's literally a guy falling for 10 seconds trying to not fall
for
with
some
the
reason,
snow shovel.
For some reason in my head, it's the guy from the first Home Alone, the church snow shoveler guy.
No, it's
you
like
just incepted an image that actually does not exist in the real world into my head.
I think like I know it was big on Vine, and like I love Vine, and I talk about Vine way too much. In Bruce Willis, and and so yeah. Anyway, so like I'll make fun of myself in the videos and stuff, and there's a lot more that happen in the videos, but in the podcast, I guess besides anyway, where the whole point of it is to stay on topic and to be kind of more, free expression and just us being ourselves, because Sam and I are, she and I are just really, really good friends who just, we have very opposing opinions on a lot of stuff. Like I'm a Star Trek fanatic. She loves Star Wars only. And she's Marvel, I'm DC, and a bunch of stuff. But the whole thing is about us also being very ADHD and not staying on topic. The other ones, because I want things to be coherent and I want people to subscribe and listen to the podcast for being what the podcast is. I think with me, I spend a little bit too much time editing and making sure like I'll take out pauses. So you'll even hear it like that. You'll be like, oh, that was clearly an edit. Somebody said something. And so I try to just make the show exactly what people kind of signed up for if they were going to listen to it. I guess I don't know I hope that answers the question, but that's pretty much how I do it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned like having some anxiety and being ADHD, and I wonder if those two things interplay with one another.
Yes,
and how they do, because I'm not diagnosed as ADHD, but I suppose that I may fall somewhere in that spectrum if there is a spectrum for it.
Yeah, absolutely is.
I'm kind of all over the place. I'm just not quite as high energy maybe as you, but I relate to a lot of what you're saying. I might be like a sleepy version of you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's weird, especially with me. So my ADHD, I was diagnosed way early on, doing tests and stuff like that. And so I was on everything from Ritalin, Metadate, Concerta, Focalin XR. I think I've, in the span of when I was diagnosed in first grade, I think I've been on over 10 different medicine. And at one point going to 3 different psychiatrists, doing 3 different tests weekly, back in middle school. And did a bunch of trial ones that did not make it to market and definitely made life a little harder. So I would say with all of that, I'm extremely anxious because I overwork myself. But when I do these panel discussions, I freak out. And it's very, very stressful because I want to be understood, and yet I also don't want to speak too much. But the thing is that as everybody knows me, and which is why I like the whole thing of me working with people I like, because I rub people either you really like me or you just can't stand me, and I understand that completely. And so when I'm doing and using these people's time to talk to other people who are in the same field or in the same doing the same stuff as them, who could also be considered competition, I let everybody know who's going to be on the podcast, of course, but I also just don't know what they want out there or what they want to say to other people who are doing the same thing as them. So I want to value their time as much as possible and have all my questions be very, very succinct and very, I guess just perfectly said.
Yeah, and you want to be professional about it.
That's true. I mean, I'm not a very professional person, but
I mean, one of my kind of, and I don't want to interrupt this question, but like you're answering a lot of questions I have in your answers, in your general answers to
that's
other
why
questions.
I just talk too much.
No, it's great. It's great. But it like begs that I want to, begs the question that I have sitting here. And I had this sense from listening to your podcasts, a level of professionalism and
thank you.
A level of preparation. And so it goes hand in hand with that, like managing, and I have it as well. And I relate exactly to what you're saying and having some like performance anxiety, but also it's a performance anxiety that is relative to making sure that you showcase your guest in the best possible way. And like you said, value their time. And also that for me, for example, because the podcast here is very fluid and I have some questions and themes I want to hit on, but really the conversation's flowing in every and all direction. And that's what it's meant to do. But at the same time, sometimes it flows in a direction and then I'm trying to formulate the best follow-up question. And I have questions that popped up in my head over the course of the answer to the previous question. I have questions that I have written down here.
Yeah. So I also like on that point, like, because before I came out here to act and stuff. I didn't want to come up with questions and whatnot and do this. I wanted everything to be written down unless it was like a scene for improv and hope that I have somebody else to bounce off of as well. And so so how we started was when I was working at Disneyland, I was like, I'm not doing what I moved out here to do. And I met other people who were in the same vein as that. Or just other friends, so my friend Dan Silva, my friend Evan Haig, and my friend Jeffrey Altman. And Evan and I met at Comic-Con back in 2008, and we started our own podcast that was called Failcast. Because I love making fun of my last name. Like if you find me on everything except for Reddit, unfortunately somebody beat me to it. It's like I think it's like Reddit and some other random service. I'm not on Tumblr, so somebody probably took it. I'm not on there. But anyways, doesn't matter. But like everything else, I'm the McPhailure. So like PlayStation, Xbox, Instagram, Twitter, all the stuff. All that stuff. Oh, I know what it is. It was my Xbox Game Pass. I don't have the McPhailure. I'm the McPhailure GG. Somebody beat me to it. So Reddit That's and hilarious. Xbox Game Pass. Which is fine because I'm.
But
you
know that
Reddit.
Person out there is trying to go to every other social media and like this damn podcaster guy,
right?
Got it everywhere else.
This annoying guy. No, yeah. Like, I love Reddit. I'm not on it, but I'm the Grand Geek. That's the other thing is like it took over. The Grand Geek Gathering took over everything, but we had Failcast, and then he was from New York or Pennsylvania, New York. Going to school in New York from Pennsylvania, and I was from Austin, Texas. And so we both moved out here different times. I actually stayed at his aunt's couch for like 2 weeks. And so I went to him, and he works in the film industry. And I was just like, I want to do a podcast. Maybe we can try to do Failcast again or call it something else. And he was like, sure. And then my friend Dan Silva, who was working with me at Disneyland, who wanted to be in the video games. He wanted to do anything with video games. He was a beta tester for multiple companies and just kind of like settled at Disneyland. And then our friend Jeffrey, who is essentially just an encyclopedia of comics, and he was a history substitute for I forgot what district. And God, wait, there's too many cities out here. Like I'm from Texas, where it's just like one city every 60 miles. No, and so we just kind of started doing the Grand Geek Gathering. We went from like one show to 3 shows. One of them was called, oh my gosh, now I forgot one of the other one. But the other one I was like so proud of, and everybody else hated the name, but I loved it so much. It's called Tick It or Click It, and it was the one about movie and TV. That's all it was. And I thought it was amazing. I thought it was a great title. And everybody else is like, this title sucks. And I was like, man,
I like it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then we started Indie Comics, and that's our longest show. It's the only show that's older than 3 years. And so I forgot the question.
That's okay, but you, I did too. So it must have not been that impressive of a question. But you started in 2014, and now we're 2020. So that's 6 years, and you have one show that's ongoing for 3 years. So, you know, what is the evolution? You started with that one show, and then you had 3, and what is like the expansion and contraction cycle that you've gone through over the years? If you could give us kind of like a timeline.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
The best of your ability.
We started off as for fun, and but all of us were creators. And then after the 4 of us created GGG, we had our friends like Eric Durham, who was also my business partner for years, and now works in Hollywood. He works at a production company. I shouldn't say. And then Tim Stapenhorse, who is also, they're both on Drinking Dragons still today. And we just kept on having more and more and more people be on, and we built our own website. And at first, we were just podcasts. We didn't want to do anything else. Jeffrey, our co-founder, would write weekly articles. It's called Jeff Picks. I actually still continue on, where he just picks 2 different comics that he'd suggest people to pick up every week. And then after a while, there was a lot, because we didn't know what we wanted to be. And it's kind of like still in that same boat. We still don't know what we want to be, but we're just doing it because it's fun. And but for a while, it was more I guess, like, you know, we trusted people we shouldn't have trusted. There's a lot of people who really hurt us, and like we trusted somebody who had, quote unquote, built a website for us and everything. And he was with us for about 5 months, and then he locked us out of everything. We almost lost everything. And then he even I didn't realize it, but the domain, he had set it up underneath he had switched it to his GoDaddy account and charged my credit card and everything for the domain. I guess when I wasn't paying, because we were working on it, and I guess I just wasn't paying attention. And when I was like turned away, or maybe on the other side of maybe I was getting my wallet or something like that, he would log out and go back in and do it. And so after a while, he just locked us out. And which is why the whole thing is like, definitely be careful on who you trust and who you work with and stuff. And so after that happened, we created the second website.
Was there some disagreement like that?
No,
he just ghosted you, and I'm and I'm taking your website.
I was working at IKEA, and he just and I would ask, and he just said, he goes, I'm just going through a lot of personal stuff. I just need a second. I'll finish the website, because all it was just a front page. If you clicked on anything else, it wouldn't go anywhere. And we wanted to go to conventions. We wanted to be press at conventions, and we needed a working website. And conventions left and right were just being like, no, your website's fake. If I click on anything, it says that it goes to it goes to a 404 screen. And so and he had the admin control over it, because he knew how to build knew how to build a website. So we had to make our own website completely. And then after GoDaddy kind of figured out everything, and we got that domain back, and we just kind of set it. And so we built our own website. Eric's sister is an amazing website designer, and so she helped us a little bit and taught us how to do it, as well. And so with that, we focused. Eric wanted to do production. I wanted to act, and he goes, "Why are we doing this? We should be doing scripted stuff." And I agreed, and I wanted it so badly. And the thing is that it was hard for me, because I was getting really, I guess, just I'm trying to think of the word. It's not relaxed, but I was just so complacent with how things were going, and I was afraid of change, and I was afraid of I'm like, well, what if this fails and we just ruin GGG somehow? And so Eric and Tim they wrote a series with Eric's wife. It was Aylin, which was called Fangirls Plus Boy, about these two women who were living with this guy, and they were very, very, very smart and very knowledgeable on geek stuff, and he is the dummy who doesn't understand it, and so they try to explain it to him, and and it's just basically just him, just a guy getting by, living with two smart women who know everything, who were trying to teach him into it. And then there's 5-minute episodes, and the season's on YouTube, and I love it. I think it's one of the greatest things. We started doing Drinking Dragons, the video show, and I wanted it so badly. I wrote 2 series. One of them which was I still have the scripts for, and like I would love to do in some form or fashion. It's called Dumbfounded, which is about a group of four friends who are just so stupid, and they're just 4 geeks who are just so dumb and surrounded by very, very, very normal people. And it's not like it's kind of like How I Met Your Mother and Big Bang Theory, except for like way less stereotypical. Like, and so that we just never. I got cold feet.
More generic geeks as opposed to specific.
Okay, Google, stop. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I got cold feet. We wanted to try Fangirls Plus Boy. We were doing a bunch of video stuff. Like we were doing like the stereotypical geek websites, as they would do, all those news websites that would do like the cosplay compilations and stuff like that, conventions. So we tried doing that. We tried doing like weekly videos. But we did one series that I absolutely love. I'm trying to bring back, which is called Joan Rivers Red Carpet Cosplay, where I poorly dress up as Joan Rivers. I'm a very big Joan Rivers fan. She's absolutely one of the most influential people. And I do it, one thing, because I know she would love it, because she's so crazy and awesome like that. She's just one of those comedians that not only was a trailblazer and literally one of the greatest comedians of all time, but also somebody who loved being ridiculous and the absurd. And so she, when she passed away, it was like, it was very detrimental to me. Her and Carrie Fisher like really affected me. And so I wanted to do something where I was like, I want to poorly dress up as Joan Rivers and interview cosplayers and be just as ridiculous as her or not. And are
you doing a full imitation and everything?
Kinda. No, it's terrible. It's absolutely, it's like, who are you wearing? What are you doing here? And stuff like that. Like it was, no, I can't do Joan Rivers. I wish I could. But, and so we would just film it outside of a convention and and I would like get the names wrong. It was like this one thing where it was just one video where she did it on purpose as a prank, where she just started getting some of her best friends' celebrities' name wrong on purpose, just to get a reaction out of them. And so I started doing that every single time. Like I think we interviewed like Moana, and I called her Mona. And and then Ray, I called her. I was like, so I'm here with Mary Sue, and I love Ray, by the way. I absolutely love the character. Beetlejuice was we would interview my friend who always cosplays as Beetlejuice from Beyond Fandom, and I would always call him my daddy or my dad. I was like, I'm here with my father.
I was gonna guess ants in your pants or something like that.
Ants in your pants. No, he would just be my dad. He's like, I'm here with my father. And anyway, and so those were a lot of fun, and I want to bring her back in some form or fashion, maybe in live stream. But that's what we focused on, which was just doing video content and having the podcast be second, because we only had, I think at that point, 3 shows. And
how many years ago is this on the?
This would be 4 years ago. This would be 6. We did it for about a year and a half, so about 5.5 to about 4 years, and then we started doing panels. Eric had the idea to do, because Unnecessary Debates was a failed podcast idea. Tim Stapenhorst, I had mentioned before, and I have very opposite opinions on everything. And he is an amazing writer and an amazing debater, and I am not. I'm very scatterbrained, as you can tell from this interview. And so we try to do unnecessary debates as a podcast where him and I would argue, and we did a couple takes, and granted I got like absolutely demolished every single time. And so Eric was like, either we find somebody else to be in your place or we don't do this. And I was like, let's not do this. And so, and that was like at the beginning. So yeah, so GGG is like, GGG is 6 years, or yeah, coming up to 6 years old, or now 6 years old. And yeah, we celebrated our 5th year like 3 months late because we just completely forgot. Jeff was like, yeah, were we doing anything for the 5th year? And I was just like, oh yeah, when is that? He goes, 2 months ago. And I was like, oh crap. So and I got like the original team because Dan now works, he went to school full time, and now he's working on his master's, and he's working at a company full time. Evan is now working really hard in the film industry, and lives up in LA, and I live in OC, and it's really hard. So Dan, they're both always there if I need them, and but like they both had to step back from GGG because they got way too busy for it, and we were doing too much, and so. Evan would always stay on, and he directs anything that's video usually. So that's his whole thing. And Dan's there to keep me sane at convention so I don't get too anxious. And so, but at this time, like, yeah, Eric became my business partner, and it was the greatest business partner, and definitely knew how to get things done. Where me, I just like to create, and I wasn't ready for changes, and I was definitely a pullback on that, and that's something that I've been working on, and he's always there for me to give me advice and stuff, but that's like my main thing I've been working on and changing is don't just settle. If something's not working, drop it and make something that does work, which is kind of like why we made Most Extreme Ranking Challenge. And so like I said, all of our shows are new. The Grand Geekery is a fixed, I think a fixed version of The Gathering, which was our original podcast for it. That was, we were on over 100 episodes on that alone. And wow. that was our staple show, or now The Grand Geekery is. And so it kind of just became a way better version of it. And Indie Comics has gone through 3 different iterations of it. And so, but yeah, so we focus on video. Video didn't work. I felt like I was wasting a little bit more of Eric's time because he's brilliant at filmmaking and doing all that stuff. And so, and he wanted to get out of the current company he was working for that shan't be named. And now he is doing phenomenal stuff in Hollywood. And so, and now it's back to me where we just reverted back to doing podcasts and just panels only. We've been doing Comic-Con with Unnecessary Debates for the past 4 years now. This past year was our 4th time. We were supposed to go to Emerald City for the 2nd time this year. And we think last year alone, I think we did 18 different panels doing Unnecessary Debates and other panels as well. Michael Tanner, the other co-hosts on Burn After Pitching, and I work together on doing panels and stuff where we talk about basically everything. We have like one of our favorite one that we were thinking about putting into a podcast, but we're both so busy because he's a comic book creator as well. Oh, wow. And, but we have a panel that's called Reinventing Monsters, where you have people from different mediums talking about different ways to bring monsters to life, how to create them, the history of them, and everything. And so, it's a fantastic panel, and a fantastic idea he had. And so, yeah. And we've been focused on that. And now we're slowly getting back into video, but video podcasts right now, and then streaming. But,
and how long was that hiatus without video content? So you did video, and then you transitioned back to just podcasting, and now you're trying to dip your toe back into video?
Yeah, I think it was this past August. We started doing the Let's Plays because I'm very obsessed with a few Let's Players on YouTube. I'm completely obsessed with Oni and G, the Game Grumps, and a few other people. And so I was like, I want to play more video games. I don't have time to play video games. If I make it a show, then I have time to play video games. And so that's how I started doing the Let's Plays, and so the Grand Plays is what we call them. And so that was us getting back into video. And then gamer culture went from just being audio to a video one, because Sean, who actually owns Gamer Culture, and I talked about it, and then because that used to be its own show, and then got canceled. We canceled it and got revitalized because of Jeffrey, the co-host, was like, I want to present to you a show about gaming. And I was like, yeah, we had one called Gamer Culture, and Sean's still with us. Like, maybe we can just revamp Gamer Culture. And so they both worked together, put their heads together, and now we have Gamer Culture, and I love the show. And we put it on video. They wanted me to be like the third host of it, and we just do that video, and I love it. I started learning how to edit, and that's the other thing about this pandemic and this quarantine is that with my ADHD, and this is not all ADHD people, but I have to keep busy. I have to, if I didn't, then I get very depressed and very anxious and everything. And so like I've learned, I got Adobe and I learned After Effects. I learned Animate. I animated my own 1.5-minute short of Paper Mario with just the game. Oh my gosh, with the anyways, with the art from the game, and I started learning more on Premiere again and Photoshop, and all that stuff. And so with that, I going over and jumping over to the video was honestly a blast. And so I was like so gung ho to get back into it, and like, you know, it's I wish I wasn't so scared of it before, I guess it also kind of shows. But yeah, it's
meaning that you wish you would have dipped your toe back into video earlier.
I mean, I just wish I wasn't so scared, you know, because Eric was very, very, very smart. But also, like, you know, I also, you know, we didn't. It's kind of like what Hank Green says, where it was like, if you weren't big on YouTube 9 years ago, you're going to have an unbelievable amount of difficulty getting big now. Like, you have to have like a big shtick or something else. Like, you know, a lot of Viners, when Vine went down, have done great things with YouTube. Some of them did. A lot of like Drew Gooden, Danny Gonzalez are both like doing phenomenal stuff on YouTube and made that transition very, very easily, where so many of them did not. And I was so afraid of failing and being like, you know, just not getting the numbers that I wanted. And so I don't know. And also just putting myself out there creatively, because, you know, I always hear a lot of stuff negative and whatnot about our podcast and everything else. And where it's like video, where it's something that I care about deeply, which is the visual stuff, like film, television, stuff like that, stuff I absolutely love. You know, somebody tells me, "Oh, your podcast isn't that great." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? There's billions and billions and billions of podcasts. That totally makes sense." But it's like, dude, the video that you wrote, directed, edited, and like this thing that you created and spent an ungodly amount of hours on sucks. You're just like, "Oh my God, my baby, my pride." Like, I think I can take somebody not liking my podcast a lot more than somebody telling me something that I scripted and came up with is garbage. Like, to me, like, that's why I'll never get into comics, because people are way too critical. And like, and like, it's so, because a lot of my friends and a lot of people even on GGG are comic book creators, and they always tell me these horror stories of somebody looking at their stuff at conventions, picking it up and be like, "This is terrible," and walking away.
Oh my gosh.
I'm very down on myself, but I'm also really not good at like hearing it. That would destroy me. And I've had a lot of people be like, "Why don't you just write comics?" And I'm like, that's why. Absolutely not.
Do you think the podcasting over the years has helped you build up your confidence to pursue things that you're more like invested in and passionate in like video?
I don't know. Like, it's weird. I'm confident. Like, I wouldn't be on stage at conventions and stuff like that. I have because I love being in the limelight, and that's what I studied, was theater. I studied music originally in college, and then I damaged my vocal cords, and I switched from music to theater. And so I love being in the spotlight. I love being on videos. I love people seeing me. And I do improv with my friend Ben Padden there their improv group I'm a part of, and I'm very, very happy that they let me be in their improv group, and it's amazing. And we do that at anime conventions around Southern California, and so I love it. And
maybe confidence isn't the right word, but do you think that doing the podcasting has given you what you need to overcome whatever hurdle and obstacle was in your way that was preventing you from doing video? Like, do you think that the podcasting is some sort of step in the right direction to being more open to pursuing those things more directly and putting those things out there?
I'm weird, and it may sound like really depressing, but I feel like you can say so much in a podcast, and as I try to stay away from saying things that are really bad or controversial, because I don't want to talk about that stuff. Usually, I want to talk about Bruce Willis and commercials in the 1980s while I'm drunk.
You shook your head no, but your smile told me yes.
And so I feel like with podcasts, a lot of the times people are listening to it are driving or working. Those are most of the time people are listening to it. So I feel like I can just really do what I want in a podcast, and it's a lot less work. Editing a podcast, it takes hours. Indie Comics, which is a 30 to 45-minute show, will take me about an hour and a half to edit. Grand Geekery, which could be any length, can take me an ungodly amount of time. In the most extreme ranking challenge takes me, I do 3 different days on editing the audio, and we're trying to turn that into a video show as well. and and that one will take me 6 to 8 hours to edit alone. And
that makes sense. Yeah.
And I've also been hired, and I also edit another podcast that's on hiatus right now. And so that's not part of our network. And I feel like with the audio aspect of it, it's great, and it's a driving force of our website, but it's not like something where I feel like that's the most connection to. Where if somebody, I'll put in some, like, that's why I'll leave in me stuttering sometimes and stuff like that. But I feel like my calling and my love is video, is visual stuff, is the stage, television, film, or YouTube. I absolutely love YouTube. I'm on YouTube way too much. And so I think with podcasts, it's like a lot of the time people will be like, they'll be listening very intently, or they're just not going to be really listening. They're just going to be kind of like going in and out of it, depending on the conversation, especially on our podcast where we just where the conversation just kind of goes everywhere, or like Indie Comics where it is all about this one subject. And, and we usually ask the same questions over and over again because we love hearing the different answers that they get, that these creators have, and for those questions. And so I feel like I can get away with a lot more on podcasts, which is why I focus a lot more, and I want people to go more to our panels, where it is something that I feel like it's unlike anything else, like our Unnecessary Debates panel. And that's why I think Comic-Con has us. They don't have any other comedy panels. When we first submitted, they didn't know it was like a comedy thing. Like, they said Unnecessary Debates. Oh, that's kind of cute. They didn't expect it to be, because they do all the stuff that's like really, really big on like Q&As and all this other stuff. They don't have like a straight up just comedic panel. And so we did it, and we did really well. Our numbers are still do a really great job, and I appreciate them so much. CCI is the greatest. And
what was that process like as well to get onto the stage?
Oh man. Okay. So
boy, I'm already glad I asked.
Huge shout out to Eric again. Okay. So again, Eric had the idea, let's do Unnecessary Debates. We should do panels. Videos aren't really cutting it. And, Fangirls Plus Boy was our Hail Mary. We're just like, okay, if this makes it, we're going to keep going on videos. If it doesn't make it, then we're not. And that's hence also why we got Cold Feet on Drinking Dragons. And so my father owns restaurants, and his restaurant was on a Travel Channel show, and he had the information to get us a meeting and stuff like that. So we, and also reached out to them as well. And so all we had to do was reach out. but we got cold feet because of the not failure, but it's because of the non-response of Fangirls Plus Boy, and it's still up and it's amazing. Tim and Eric, our Tim and Eric, not the Tim and Eric. Tim Sabanhorst and Eric Durham are phenomenal writers, and Aylin, and I'm forgetting all their names. Oh no! And the actors are phenomenal in it. I'm just saying the actors. The actors are phenomenal. It's been many years, and so Eric came up with doing unnecessary debates. He goes, "Okay, let's do this. A stage. We both like the stage. It's production. There's some production value to it. We'll do a PowerPoint, and then we'll make unnecessary debates a panel." So we did it at a very small convention called TitanCon. That was down in Fullerton at a college, and we were just like, "Hey, can we do this thing? We would just love to try out this idea for a panel." And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely. That sounds fun." And we filled up the room, and we just had our friends. It was Eric, my friend Danny Gonzalez, who is a comedian and runs his own convention called Ronin Expo. My friend Tony Falco, who is a streamer, and our friend Albert, who runs the Who What Where's Why network. And
who did you pitch it to at that small Titan?
Just their programming. You usually just email and talk to programming. And so we just did it there. We filled the room, and Eric was like, "Listen, it's not going to happen. What if we just submit it to Comic-Con?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, I don't know." I was horrified because I was like, what if they say no and they feel insulted and they just hate us and we don't get because we got press badges and everything. And we're like, what if they're so insulted by this? I was blowing it way out of proportion. And I didn't want to do it.
That's something that I do often. And I think a lot of people do, even about just doing a podcast. I was like, oh no, I tormented myself over just turning on a video and communicating with people.
You ever have those hypothetical conversations in the shower? You're in the shower and you're just kind of by yourself and you're just like, what if my friend, what if I did this and my friend came up to me and was just like, "Hey, what happened?" And then you just go through all these different scenarios on how you react. Am I the only person who does this?
That's my life.
Okay. I do that I don't know why it's the shower, but in the shower, I'm just like, what if I just did this? And
I'll be at the microwave waiting for something to finish and thinking of the most absurd sequence of events that could put me in an awkward situation that I need to, for some reason, I think I need to be prepared for. So, no, you are not alone.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. Because I told that to Lamar and Marcellus one time. They were like, "No, who does that?" And I was like, "Oh God, I'm a sociopath." No, anyway, so I freaked out, and he was like, "Let's just do it." He goes,
this was after the success at TitanCon.
Yeah, TitanCon was at that point it was the second year of it, and they only had 2,000 people show up, and the showrunners are actually on our Shukai podcast, Martin, and so he actually runs it now, and Martin's awesome. Shout out to Martin. And anyway, so it was just a small convention, and we were in a room that was only for 25 people. I think we had 30 people in there who were standing up, and we had the biggest crowd out of any other panel in the convention, which was really, really weird. And so Eric talked me into it, and we submitted to Comic-Con, and they said yes. They go, "Absolutely, we would love to have you Saturday night at 9 p.m., which is the worst spot because everybody's partying at Comic-Con. Nobody wants to see a panel at Comic. We were also at the same time as the Masquerade and all the parties, and I think there's a screening of a movie as well that year. And so we were we didn't expect anything, and we were in a room for about
what was that submission process like? You
just fill out a form. You fill out a form
and send it,
and that's all it is. That's how most conventions are. Some of them last for a bunch more stuff, but those are always the medium-sized ones that usually are not worth your time. I have a lot of opinions. That's the other thing is we're going to be focusing on next year is talking about, because I know a lot of convention heads and people who run them or are in the operations and stuff. And so, because I would go to 30 a year for the past 3 years, I go to 30 conventions a year. And so
are most of those local to some degree?
Yeah, most of them. I would go to Emerald City, and I would go to Oh my God, what is wrong with me? The Las Vegas one. Why am I forgetting its name? Um, anyways, yeah. So one in Las Vegas, but everything else is in Southern California or in middle California, and yeah, because there's like a convention, or used to be a convention a week, or if not
Right.
multiple, and so and yeah, a lot of the ones
So,
that
so you got the it's just um, returning us,
backtracking. Oh yeah,
yeah, returning us back in case that's where we wanted to go. Is you got that 9 p.m. time slot, which was not
yes.
good in terms of the timing
I
relative to other
yeah.
things going on. If you wanted to attract a large
I,
audience,
I was horrified because I was like, because I was so scared to even submit it to begin with. And then they gave us that time slot. Like, okay, again, I am so happy that they gave us a time slot, but I also was like, what if we don't deliver and we insult somebody in that time slot? Like we could like then we would really be on their shit list. Like if we weren't on their shit list before, now we will be. So I was so scared of what would happen. So we had my friends, we had we had one of the creators of this hilarious comic that's called Man vs. Rock on Jeffrey Golden, who wrote for Mad TV. He's written, oh, no, sorry, Mad Magazine. And he had his own publishing company, comedy publishing company. It's called the Devastator Press, which is everything they had was amazing. And he's just done a lot of comedy stuff. And he is one of the funniest people in the world. And then my partner on GGG, Eric, was on there as well. And I think at that point it was Jenny Jaffe as well. I think she was the other person. And I don't know why I'm forgetting right now. It was Jenny Jaffe. And so who I had not met yet. We met her through Jeffrey Golden. And so we did it, and we had it was a 300 person room, and we had about 150. We filled it up halfway. And I was like, oh, awesome. Okay, cool. Like, this is a lot more people than I anticipated. But I also was just like, yeah, but we're also in a really big room at this time slot. Maybe this is like really bad for whoever usually had this time slot before. And after we were done, the volunteers came up to me like, the one guy does the soundboard. He was like, I've been doing this room for like 5 years. He goes, anytime a panel is in this room at this time slot, there's like maybe 10 people there. And I was like, wait, what? And he was like, yeah. He goes, awesome job. And I was like, oh, crap. Do you put in like notes and stuff like that? He goes, yeah, I'll write you up. Don't worry. And I was like, oh, my God. And then I talked to Comic-Con before. I get also, especially at the beginning, I was really scared about like rubbing people the wrong way. And of course, I would over email and rub people the wrong way in that in that film fashion. And I'm just joking. I don't think anybody was mad at me, but it got to a point where they're like, I think one of the, I won't name them, but somebody from CCI was like, listen, we really like you. You don't have to stress out. Don't worry. And I was like, okay, cool. And so they just been keeping us in. And
you're
last
like, okay,
year,
cool. And then you sent them another email. I mean, cool, like figuratively, not actually the temperature, because I hope you're warm and feeling very comfortable.
And then another email, not too warm though. Oh my gosh, I don't want you to get dehydrated. Here, I'll send you one of those.
I'll send you water.
Yeah, I'll send you water and a Yeti that'll keep your water cold for 18 hours. No. And but yeah, I got to a point where he was like, you can just call. Yeah, it's like, because I told him, like, I'm really bad at email, and so I'll just call them up. They were really cool. CCI is the greatest. And so we got out last year, not this past year. We got out of the Saturday night slot because we went from 9 p.m. to 7 p.m. and then we went to Friday at 7 at the Marriott, and we almost filled the entire room of 250 seats on that one. And we had a really great panel that one, the people who were on it. And so we had like a writer on oh my God, House of Cards. We had Jenny Jaffe, who was really, really big, working on Big Hero 6 and a couple other shows that are coming out. They're really big. My friend Genevieve Marie, who is a very big cosplayer, very huge following. Comedian Clayton Thomas, who is gigantic and awesome and phenomenal. And then Michael Tanner and Adhd, who is a writer on Rick and Morty and a bunch of other really great shows. And so that was a really, really good year. And then this year we did it on they asked us to come back and approved us for the online one, and I was horrified because I was so distraught at the beginning. I didn't know what to do with unnecessary debates because we were supposed to do it live at a ticketed event and everything. We were like getting ready to just promote it. Like I had the people who were going to be on it, and COVID hit, and then the place closed down and everything. And so it was a big bummer. And then conventions were just, canceling left and right. So I was like really sad and had no idea what to do with unnecessary debates. And so Comic-Con was like, hey, we're doing the online thing. Just submit it. But we really want it on. And you can just, and I called them, of course. And I was like, hey, because they wanted us for WonderCon, and WonderCon didn't happen too. And WonderCon is the sister convention of San Diego Comic-Con. And I was kind of a wreck, and I was really, really sad. And like, my whole thing out here was my whole goal is to get paid to do this stuff, to entertain. I don't want to be an auditor. And so, and doing the live stuff was a really big thing. And it took it hard. And then I knew initially like 60 people who got COVID just in the first 2 months of it. Of all this insanity. And so everybody around me was sick with it, and I not knowing if they were going to survive, what was going to happen. One person I knew passed away, having diabetes, which is like the worst thing to have with it. And so I was a wreck. And so they were like, WonderCon, you're already accepted. We just need all the information and we'll give you this. And I just told them, I can't, I'm sorry. I was like, I just was like, I'm so sorry. I'm not taking this really well, and I hope this doesn't damage anything. And I was like, I can't do this. And so at that point I was really scared if we were going to be even at Comic-Con anymore, but I was looking out for me first. And so Comic-Con came back and they were just like, yeah, we want you back. Don't worry about WonderCon. Give us who you need on it, and that's it. And so I was still scared, and so I just used people I knew really well, like voice actor Eric Lopez, who is amazing, who is in literally everything right now. He's awesome. And then my friend Utahime cosplay, who's a really big cosplayer, and she's one of the greatest people in the world. And then Lamar from Most Extreme Ranking Challenge, and then Michael Tanner, and my friend Sean from BuzzFeed, and also runs a little convention called Anime Impulse, which is awesome, and he's the greatest. And so,
and this is for a virtual event.
Yeah, this was the virtual Comic-Con. And so this was the first time doing it. And I was so scared on how to do it. And I was very insecure about it. So Lamar was my co-host on it because I was like, I don't know what to do. I felt kind of defeated. And it's still on YouTube, and it's a lot of fun. It turned out way better than I thought. And so because I just wanted it to be my friends and not big people. I didn't want to call in any favors.
A little bit lower pressure for when you're doing something for the first time that's already in an intimidating circumstance and whatnot.
Absolutely. And so, and it happened, and it's still on YouTube, and it's so good. I'm very proud of it. It's really funny. And, and then we started doing a little bit more because they've been doing virtual conventions and stuff. So we did a couple more of them. The Core Dance Crew, which is a fantastic cosplaying dance troupe that perform everywhere. And I did their I'm so sorry. But I did their event that was very big and successful and awesome. And I love them, and I'm so proud of them. And so I'm still very appreciative that they even thought of me. And so we did it there and a couple other events as well. And so, and we did it for a Black Lives Matter charity stream that we did a 12-hour stream. And so we did it there with some of my friends as well. Like Genevieve, Marie, and I'm forgetting everybody else now who's on that. Sorry. It's been a long day. But anyways, yeah. So that was a learning curve, and we're going to start bringing it back for the charity streams that we're going to be doing once a month.
Yeah. And like, if you don't mind going back to when cons were being canceled, and I mean, I hear stories of people who had opportunities, and it was the time for them to like start really moving more quickly in the direction that they had always hoped to move, and then being derailed a little bit by the current circumstances with COVID and the pandemic. And it seems like that's very much the position you were in. So I am really curious, and you could talk in any direction on this topic, but how you were feeling, how down in the dumps you were feeling, and then
oh man,
You can go as deep into that as you want, or not touch that side of
Oh,
the
and
question
absolutely.
at all. But then what you did to pivot out, and what you did to refresh and recalibrate and put yourself into a space where you were able to create again. Because I think that's like a position for a lot of creators right now
Yeah.
is, and I had recorded a podcast last night with a comic book artist, and he was saying basically that a lot of people need time to not create, and don't feel bad if you're not creating right now. It's
Yes.
okay to take time off. And so, I would love if you could share with me, obviously we know what happened, but how
Yeah.
did you feel? And then how did you get yourself out of that feeling to be doing things in a new world?
Yeah, that's the other thing I want to say. Like, I know I've been busy and I've been doing a lot, but that's just me. And I've been telling everybody, especially on our website, which is why like we have a podcast, Trope Time, which has been on hiatus since May, because they were like, I'm overwhelmed, and I was like, cool, don't do anything until you want to do it. Like, and I've been telling everybody on the website, if you need time, don't do anything. And that's my main thing on our website, because we're always looking for writers or anybody to do anything. And we're working on 4 new shows that I have nothing to do with, to lessen my work, which is great. With that, again, I have a lot of friends that I've made over the years in the comic book industry, people who own their own publishing companies, people who do other podcasts and stuff like that, who have had a very, very, very hard time with this. Some people are doing okay with this, people who are like doing Kickstarter and stuff like that. But the people who made their living doing conventions, which, yeah, I shouldn't name, but well, they're having a really, really, really tough time. And not only is it financially, hitting them financially, it's hitting them basically just emotionally, because it's something that, again, they latch onto and it's part of their life. And for me, with me growing GGG, I even, we have our podcast out there, and I can only do so much marketing, being being a 32-year-old guy who doesn't really understand social media all that well. I can only do so much online when I don't know how to do all that. And but conventions were the easiest sell. You have a panel, people go to it. I go around and meet everybody. I talk to practically everybody around me. I have no idea how many friends I have literally made by literally hitting them with my backpack and apologizing and just becoming friends. Like literally, I would say over 30 people I have actually become friends with, just solely from me accidentally hitting them with my gigantic backpack full of recording equipment and whatnot. And just be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You okay? And then like striking up a conversation. I also talk to people on the bus and on the subway and anything else, by the way. I'm that guy. And on the airplane, sorry. But I have these friends and myself who we just kind of rely on conventions. That's our notice. That's our what we work hard for. Like for me, again, I don't make money from it, so it's all about me trying to grow and get people to pay attention to our website. So my friends and I, who are putting hours into it, to get the notice. Then I have my friends who make money from it, who do create and rely and don't have the audience yet to sell it online, on digital sales, or even start at their own Kickstarter, or if they hadn't done so before this pandemic, or or don't have the connections and are going to these conventions to make those connections. If you listen to indie comics, there's a lot of people who talk about that. They go, the only reason why they got into comics is because they met one person at a convention and it just went from there. And we talked to, Eliza a very French name, and she's a very big, very big artist right now and an amazing creator. And I'm so sorry. I went to the dentist today, so I got like shot up and everything. So I'm a little still like that and numb. And anyway, and she talked about like she came here she went from France to San Diego Comic-Con and met 3 different people from publishers, and that's how she got started. She went there with her portfolio and just talked to them, and they loved her personality, loved her work, and they were like, and they were just from talking. That's the thing is people can tell if you're easy to get along with very, very quickly, especially people who work in comics and stuff. And that's why these comic creators have to rely on these conventions, because if they can talk to you and they're like, you remind me of all these other people we've signed on before who are easy to work with, come with me and meet us. And so she met somebody who saw her work, and after she talked to him for a little bit, he was like, yeah, you look like you seem like a winner, and your body language and how you're expressing yourself is exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah, for somebody to collaborate with.
Collaborate, yeah, right.
And that's how she got started. And there's other creators as well who are in the exact same boat. And it's funny because I have a con mom, and she works for a very, very big distribution company. And because of me, there are other people who I very much love and whatnot, who I've introduced them to her, and they are now getting national distribution, just because I met her on an airplane for my first convention, for my first Comic-Con, and I had made an 18-page to-do list, exclusives I wanted to buy, all the panels I wanted to do, a map of everything, all the booths I wanted to go to, and like I over prepare for Comic-Con. I used to call it a survival guide, and I used to make them for my team until they were like, stop. We don't want it. And so I don't do it anymore. And I still do it for myself still, but and so I sat next to her on an airplane, and I had it and everything like that. And I struck up a conversation with her. I was 18 at the time, and we were just talking, and she was like, so you're going to Comic-Con? I go to Comic-Con. You should go to this booth and I'll come by and say hi to me. Because we were talking the entire flight. From DSW. Is it DSW? DFW?
Yeah. the shoe store.
Which one's the shoe
Dallas.
store? Which one's Dallas? Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
DFW. I'm from Texas. Yeah. That's so sad. DFW. I've never been to a DSW ever. I just always pass by it because I buy all my shoes like everybody else on Vans.com. I'm kidding. No. I don't even go to the store. It's really sad. I'm like, these look comfortable. Click.
Then you put them on. Oh crap.
Yeah. Oh god, I forgot my size. No.
I should have bought the pair that doesn't have nails in the bottom.
Oh my god.
Should have read the fine print and the description.
Oh, these are display ones. They're made out of ceramic. No. Yeah. So. Yeah, and like, so she's my con mom. Every time we go to a convention, she's just like the greatest woman in the world. Love her to death. And so, but also somebody who's helped me meet other people and creatives and helped me kind of get it. When I had the idea of doing GGG, I told her, and she got me in contact with other people and other websites and stuff. And so, like, even just then, like for me, she helped me immensely, and she's been able to help other people. But again, like, it's just the smallest things like that can really help a comic book creator. And so all of my comic book creator friends and any creator friends, conventions now are a easy gateway to get certain success. Now Kickstarter can be as well, but there's a lot of things that go with that. Like that involves marketing and everything else.
Right. It's a lot of
at a comic convention.
Time investment.
Yes. A comic convention, it's more about how is your portfolio prepared, and are you not a crazy axe murderer? I'm just kidding. No, but like, how do you present yourself to somebody?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like you just don't go up to them like, listen, comic books suck. Will you look at my portfolio? Like, don't do that. And so, but it's just the easiest way to get connections, to get in. And without that, all these comic book creators are hurting financially, and now hurting in that,
like spiritually, essentially. I mean, emotionally, absolutely. It's a way that I think everybody out there is hurting, that you're not connecting with the people who you need to connect to do what you do. And especially for, comic book creators and folks like yourself who rely on Comic Cons.
Yes.
And it's a specific couple of events scattered out over the course of the year. If you don't have those, you need to pivot and figure something else out.
Sorry.
That's
There was
okay.
a huge banging sound. And
Do you want to check it out? We could
is it
pause for a
is it over
second if you
there?
want.
I guess we got new neighbors. Okay, sorry. Okay,
Welcome to the neighborhood.
so sorry. No, it was just.
No, I can't even hear it.
You can't hear it. Oh yeah, it's really loud and stuff shaking. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Nobody will knock over Goku. That's what I'm gonna look for now. Is if
Yeah.
any of your
Right.
Dragon Ball characters fall over.
Uh,
But yeah, so I mean,
sorry.
for you personally, how did you pivot? How did you, you mentioned that it was like hard and you couldn't participate in that first offer for a virtual event. What did you do to get yourself out of that? You could fill in the blank. I'll fill it in with funk, because I've been in a couple of funks myself that I've had to actively take action, make decisions to try to actively pull myself out of the funk. And I'm wondering if you have found any strategies during this pandemic.
Therapy, 100% therapy. Mental health is important, and there's no shame in finding help. Secondly, I just created more. Also, right now, our numbers are way lower. Less people listening to podcasts, which is another reason why that was like kind of the driving force of doing. So we're in the process of turning most of our shows into video. And so, like, it's not just going to be pop moses and gamer culture. And so that was the whole thing, is like going to video, but creating more, maybe, and then turning the Grand Geek career, where we just had Lamar and I with 2 guests, to only me and 4 guests, because Lamar got really busy, because he's creative and he's just like me. He has to stay busy, and Lamar does so much. It's insane. So he started streaming and focusing on his other endeavors. And I took the reins of Geekery and just turned into more of a panel discussion show. And so we just changed the format of that show completely. And that's when I started doing stuff like I just did one 2 months ago or a month ago about the paranormal community, the paranormal fandom, with some of the people who were paranormal investigators and stuff like that. So I started doing things that I didn't do before, is how and tapping markets that I didn't focus on or do. Indie comics, we started trying to get other creators that have had a presence online. And it's one of the main forces on that front. And then Pop Moses Film, anyway, both got started up during the pandemic. So we created those 2 shows. The Game of Rassilon joined our network also around the same time, and because that was already an established show. And yeah, I think really how we did it was
staying
just
active and
staying active, having a lot more guests on to share things. But again, like, numbers are very much down because nobody really wants to listen to a podcast when they're just home or
watching
when they're
Netflix.
exactly like yeah. And I understand that. And so I don't listen to any podcasts because I edit too many, and I don't want to listen to anybody else's podcast, even though I love other podcasts. Like, I have a lot of friends with amazing podcasts, but once I hear me for 3 hours a day, I don't want to listen to anybody else.
I don't want to listen to anybody else.
I exhaust me. Like, oh God. I don't want to hear anybody else. No.
I wonder, like, and this is because I do relate to that very much. Like, I was kind of beating myself up for not doing enough. And then I turn around and I have like a new TV stand that I like woodworked myself, a bed frame and 2 bed stands.
Awesome.
I woodworked myself, all these YouTube videos up that is a separate project from this. And then, coming up on my 20th episode of this podcast. So I've definitely been keeping busy in a similar way because it's what keeps me happy and keeps me going.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want to be able to take a break from this and the creativity. And so this is very much a personal question for me, because I do relate to you in that way.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, on the flip side, do you have a strategy or have you just arrived at a point where you can lay down and turn on Netflix and watch TV and have quiet time, because I find it difficult for myself to get that quiet time, and for my brain to like shut down and actually be present and engaged in what I want to watch, but I just can't watch because I'm thinking about this and that.
My team and my partner, she as well, will make me take breaks. My therapist as well. I had a severe amount of problems trying to relax, trying to watch stuff. I would though, like what I do is like I work all day. Like I do my day job and then I go straight to GGG. And that's pretty much all I've been doing. And I've always watched something at night, either let's play videos on YouTube or other YouTube videos like the Vlog Brothers or Drew Gooden or way too many other people, I guess. Giguk, if anybody, Giguk is so good. If you like anime. And so I would watch YouTube videos or South Park. I rewatched. It's the weird thing. Every other year, I rewatch all of South Park because I love South Park and I just have to. It's a contract that I wrote at birth, I guess. I'm kidding.
The show that is not yet out, you will.
Yeah, I'm older than South Park. Yeah. Trey Parker and Matt Stone will create a gigantic thing, and so. I'll do like I would watch episodes and watch those stuff when I go to sleep and fall asleep to them. That's what I do. But now, like we just watched all of Mandalorian. I hadn't seen it before. I just saw the first episode, and I just watched all of that. And we actually finished it and watched the last episode on the day it came out, and so which was kind of cool. Now I was finally part of it. I mean, I was spoiled by like everything anyway before, not on the last episode, but yeah, and so. I'm so Star Wars out after Rise of Skywalker. And I'm sure you don't want to talk about that. And so I was just so like I was like I'm done with Star Wars. Like I don't care anymore. I do not care. And so yeah, she's been making me and my team has just like okay, just take a break. Like this week. This is the week of Christmas. I took all my PTO that was going to expire in February, and I've been off work this entire week. And we've been watching The Owl House on Disney Plus. It's good stuff, good fun, great cartoon, and a few other things. And I've been streaming games that I've been wanting to play. And streaming is a lot of fun because it's not like work. I have to look at the chat every once in a while. But other than that, I'm just playing a game and being myself because I talk in my sleep. So, I mean, this is what I do. I'm not good at it, but I do it. And anyway,
well, I'm sure a lot of your podcast listeners would disagree.
I hope. They're just hate listening. They're just like, God, I hate this guy so much. I just have to keep listening.
Why did I sign that contract at birth like he did for South Park? Damn it.
Now I don't want that to be a thing. I want there to be like a few people who just hate listen. I feel like that's the greatest compliment too. Like I hate you so much, but I listen to every single word you say, man. Like thank you.
thank you for saying those words that I hate.
Yeah.
So are you engaged when you're watching? Because that's the difficulty for me. And sharing a little bit more about myself is like sometimes I'm watching and I'm just not really there watching what I'm watching.
I'm weird, and this is how I've always been. I can watch 2 or 3 things at the same time and really understand what's happening. Like it drives her crazy. But
like simultaneously, or you mean skip like
when I'm
like
editing
3 screens?
When I'm editing a podcast, I'll be in our voice chat on Discord talking to people who are just randomly on it because people are just randomly on it every once in a while. And I'll be talking to people, editing, sometimes even playing a game. I'll be even video editing while playing a game and also in the Discord chat as well. It's like lately we've been playing a ton of Among Us, Phasmophobia, Sea of Thieves and stuff. The games I never played games before. Until this pandemic, the last time I really played a game besides Persona 5 was back in 2015. Like I just didn't play games at all. Wow. And so this pandemic, I started doing it because of streaming, and then now just managing my time and just doing things at the same time. But before, when I would edit, I would watch something else, and I would edit on my desktop and then watch something on my laptop or my phone. And so, but at nighttime we'll be watching Owl House, and I'll be also having like a thing in my ear and watching a YouTube video as well. And it annoys her deeply. Like I can do it all simultaneously, but there are certain points where one of them will distract me a little more than the other one. I'll be like, what just happened? I just missed. But I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens that often. But.
No, I understand why she gets upset.
Yeah. I've been wanting to watch this with you. What are you doing? And I'm just like, yeah, but Drew Gooden's making fun of Troom Troom. Don't look up Troom Troom, please.
You just did that thing where now like reverse psychology.
Oh, yeah. No,
was that intentional?
Look up Troom Troom and watch anything from Jarvis Johnson, who I think is absolutely one of the greatest YouTubers of all time. And also Drew Gooden, because their videos on Troom Troom, and Danny Gonzalez. Danny Gonzalez's videos are phenomenal as well. Yeah.
Good recommendations. No, I'm just looking and making sure I'm not gonna miss any questions that I had kind of pre-prepared or noodled on before.
I also don't want this to be too long for you to edit, because I don't want you to, I want this to come out when you wanted it to come out.
It's okay. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, so another question I have, and I may have asked something similar to this previously, but I wonder what you do leading into a podcast to prepare to like get yourself amped up. Amped up and or prepared for the topic and or just ready. What's your pre I wrote here pre-pod prep. What's your pre-pod prep?
This will probably make a lot of people upset. Nothing. I can talk about anything for an ungodly amount of hours. I once talked about why I think Davy Jones from Pirates 2 and 3 is one of the greatest on-screen villain, because I dive way too much into it. He has like 10 minutes of screen time only, and I talk and I overthink things. And so on the hype up, there's a lot of times I just roll out of bed and I'm like, all right, cool, let's do this. Or where I'm just like, I'm so exhausted. All right, let's do it. But like, I'm an extrovert. So even if things are digital, like, or, virtual, like things are right now, I still get like the energy from them, and it wakes me up and it ramps me up. It's just seeing or hearing other people, build me up, which is why at conventions I'm known as the puppy. Because when I'm around people, I just absorb all the energy, and I'm just like, yeah, who am I talking to today? Or who am I talking to this second? And, my team separate from me because they can't keep up. There's like 2 people on our team that can keep up with me, and they're the best. And so shout out to
no favorites, but they're the best.
Yeah, they're the best, and they're the best at keeping up with me. They're not the best. Everybody's equal in my eyes. But so shout out to Tommy Trin and Dave Smith, who can keep up with me and my speed.
Do you ever re-listen to old episodes?
No, I think it's because we have too much stuff. Like because I added, we have 9 different shows and stuff, and so I think we always have 3 or 4 episodes out a week. Always, it just always happens like that. So like Pop Moses is every other week, is every other Monday, and then Burn After Pitching is one of the other Mondays, and then Anyway is the other one, and then Grand Geekery is a weekly show, and sometimes 2 or even 3 a week. We have Dom of X every Tuesday, Indie Comics every other Wednesday, and then the other Wednesday is Game of Rassilon. And so Thursdays are always like nothing's happening until the 4 other shows that join the network. And so I don't listen to the old ones, only unless it's like something that has to do that is a follow-up to them. Like we're about to do one. I did a virtual event panel discussion, and we're going to do a follow-up to it where it's going to be most of the same people on it that were on the last one, to talk about how they're prepping for 2021. So I'm going to go back and make sure, because I don't keep my questions or anything like that, because I'm really bad at that. That's something I really need to keep track of. I'm so stupid. I'll delete audio. I'll delete episodes just completely and just be like, oh, this is done and gone. I don't need the original file. I've gotten better and fixed that though. And it's like, man, this is one and done. I'm done. And I deleted a whole video. When we did our Black Lives Matter stream, we had an amazing panel discussion with Black creators. And the importance of creating right now and everything. And it was very empowering with my two friends, Hannibal and MD Marie, two of the greatest creators and two people I love absolutely dearly. And it's a great video. And I deleted that and our unnecessary debates because I was just like, oh, this is over. And I was like, oh my God, this could have been great putting on YouTube. What the fuck is wrong with me? I hope I can curse. I apologize if I
Yeah,
can't.
no, that's good.
And so, yeah, I don't do that anymore. I'm like, again, because that was the first video that I really did ever. I mean, since, Eric would do it, because before it was always Evan, Eric, and Tim who did all the video stuff. I didn't do anything. I would either just be Joan Rivers or do Drinking Dragons and whatnot. I didn't do anything else with it. So, they have all the original stuff, and
You didn't have to worry about organizing the files and
exactly
stuff like that. Yeah.
Where we did the Black Lives Matter stream, and I was like, cool, this is done. It's over and everything. Cool. Delete. And I was
so it only
months later, I was like,
existed as a live
idiot.
it only existed as a stream, and you oh no.
Yeah. But you know what?
That's
it was
okay.
special
You
for
live
those
and
who
you
were
learn.
there. Exactly. And they're on other stuff as well. Like I think MD's been on both Indie Comics and Geekery, I think twice or three times now. Hannibal is going to be back on Indie Comics and was on that virtual convention. Anyway, so I'm going to be doing a follow-up on the virtual convention discussion with most of the people again, and I'm going to go back and listen to make sure that I'm not going to ask the same questions or to ask the same questions. Now, that's been some time in between see if there's a difference in. So in those sense, I will, but that's maybe 2 or 3 podcasts a year where I'll go back and listen to something.
Yeah, cool. I fully appreciate, like, I'm kind of the opposite, but kind of the same. I am a squirrel in that I just like will nest the files somewhere.
Yeah.
But good luck finding them.
I live by my drive, but everybody who has access to our drive hate me for it because it is, to me, organized amazingly. To them, no, not so much. It's either like too many folders or these folders are labeled completely wrong and these things need to be in these folders. And so there's no method to my madness. It's just madness.
I might suggest, and who knows if it would work, but if you map out kind of your own brain,
right?
If you give them a map so they know the structure and hierarchy that exists in your own brain, because I'm similar, that I organize things in kind of wonky ways that a lot of people can't track. But I suppose, or at least I hope, that if I gave them a tracking map that they might be able to follow my crazy logic.
A cheat sheet.
Yeah, essentially.
But
yeah. And then this was one of the more important questions I had tonight, which was, how do you organize the podcast where there's multiple people collaborating and speaking potentially over each other and speaking at the same time? And I know that there's probably some manipulation in the post-production, but is that the majority of it? Or I introduced you as kind of the puppet master because I was listening to some of your episodes, and you have so many 80s and 90s reference points. And I was reminded of this, and I don't know if you know it, this old G.I. Joe episode with the puppet master. And that was just, look it up because it's maybe one of the worst G.I. Joe episodes out there.
That's amazing. I don't think I've seen it. Like, I owned G.I. Joes when I was a kid. I don't think I ever watched any G.I. Joe stuff.
Oh,
because I have a lot of friends who were just like, especially when the movies came out, everyone's like, we got to see this movie. It's going to be a train wreck. Like, they can never do G.I. Joe right. And I'm just like, why do you care? And I was like, I just had like,
because it's so good, figures. Like Cobra Commander, and
I don't have any memory of ever watching anything G.I. Joe. I think I even thought that they were only action figures. Like, I didn't know Yu-Gi-Oh was an anime. I thought it was just the card game, because I guess when I was growing up, it was just all about Pokemon and Digimon, and so Yu-Gi-Oh was like right afterwards. On that front, that was like came out, I think, my 6th grade year when I was in middle school, and too cool for that kind of stuff. It was all about Magic the Gathering, and so Yeah. Okay. I'll look into Puppet Master Bad GI
Yeah.
Joe episode. I think the only thing I've seen that's GI Joe animated is that Community episode that is referential to GI Joe.
You haven't seen the movie, the real GI
I
Joe
saw the
real
yeah.
men?
Oh, absolutely. The
Okay.
live action movie. Oh my god. Yeah.
No, the
Oh.
animated movie.
Oh yeah. No.
Oh
I
man,
don't even think I really watched
this
much
podcast
Transformers
is
either.
over.
I know, right? Everybody talks about like all the saddest moment of my childhood was Optimus Prime's death, and I was just like, they had a movie. Like everyone was talking about the movies and stuff. They go, they had movies before live action movies, and everyone and like yeah, people got mad. I only watched.
I'm
Like,
not mad. I'm disappointed.
I only watched like Doug, Rugrats, Batman, and TMNT, and Dexter's Lab, Cow and Chicken. Like that was like the only things that I would like, and Hey Arnold. Like that was the only things I would just, and Jackie Chan Adventures, of course, and Pokemon. Like I didn't watch really anything else. Before I would just watch movies.
It might have been I'm a little bit older than you, I think, by a year or two. So
I'm 32, so yeah.
I'm 35.
Oh snap, crackle and pop, like I've called the world.
But anyway, back to the question at hand.
Oh yeah,
is
questions
as this puppet master.
Yes.
How do you organize everybody when you have like panel discussions and now you're recording virtually? How do you manage that? Because even sometimes with the lag in internet connection, I have difficulty because I want to interject, but I also don't want to stop the flow. And sometimes there'll be a pause and I'll start to say something and my guest will continue on. And I'm like, oh no, I shouldn't have spoken.
Okay. So technical aspect and also so prepping and scheduling. Again, I have people who I know or people who like people vouch for other people on. And I'm
talking more like in game.
Oh, okay. So I use Discord. I try to use Discord for everything because there is a bot or a few other bots that will record things on separate tracks. There's a Craig bot who will record everything on it. And if that doesn't work, if somebody has to use Skype or Google Hangouts, I use my Zoom H6 and I will put the audio into it and then me on another one. And my biggest issue is that I interrupt people. I talk too much. And that's one of the things I've been working on. I've gotten a lot better over the years, but I still interrupt people. And I mean, that's just something also like that's a normal, thing for people with ADHD. It's like, and also I love the spotlight. So, and I just got to get out of that headspace, especially with these panel discussions. So a lot of the times before we record, everybody knows who I am, or at least give them the lowdown. I've always been told that I am very self-aware, and I try to be as self-aware as possible. So I tell people, so before we record, I may interrupt you. Please ignore me if I'm interrupting you. Please finish what you're saying, and I'll edit myself out and edit out my rudeness. And I appreciate you, and I hope you understand. And I'm working on it. And but I can't promise anything. Or the people who know me, I always tell them, be like, if I interrupt you, and they go, yeah, we'll keep talking. And so that's something that is where it's like I have to definitely take me off of their track 100%, or they'll miss out a bunch of stuff. And again, I've gotten better over, especially with the pandemic. But I think also like right now, it's hard for me to socialize because I don't get to be around people. So my socializing skills are absolutely abysmal, and I talk too much. I talk too much, even more so now than I did before. Because before I could read people and also like not be so dependent on seeing people, where now it's like there's another person, oh my god, like you're here, yes, here's everything, I need this, yeah, you're gonna know everything about me. Okay, my father's middle name is this, and like, no, just kidding. No, and so yeah, and so like especially right now, it's like I need this my extrovertness needs that fill. And so my socializing skills are just so horrible and terrible. And which is why I think a lot of
people could relate to that too, including Absolutely. Myself. Like I feel like and I lived in Japan for a while, and I felt this way when I came back from Japan, was that I wasn't speaking English actively enough on a regular basis, at work. So I do sales type work, and I could like really just shut off my brain and speak in a very business manner. Like pretty easily and pretty naturally and flow and feel like I'm present and communicating the way that I need to communicate. But when it comes to like talking about the stuff I really want to talk about, like talking with you, sometimes I'm like formulating a question and the question is changing as it's coming out of my mouth, and I'm trying to like
so much
tie it back together and have it be the best question that it could be. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm second guessing the question as it's coming out of my mouth, and I want to change it as it's happening. And I think that's my struggle.
I think, and I feel like you and I have the same thing where like, I don't want to ask the same questions to everybody else, because like every YouTube video, every podcast can be the same thing. And even starting out with GGG, our whole thing was like, I want our shows to be completely different from anybody else's show. I don't want to ask the same questions. I don't want to have the same discussions as everybody else, which is why I always say, and I overanalyze things, and I always say things that are absolutely not normal or in the norm. Like for me, The Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars film. It is my absolute favorite Star Wars film. I love that movie so much, and I think it's the best thing to happen to Star Wars since Empire, hands down. And I love Clone Wars and everything else. I think it's like The Last Jedi and all the animated shows that are keeping it alive. And now Mandalorian, now that I can say that after last week. And that's something that nobody else shares, or people who really get mad at me for, like, personally feel attacked. With me saying that, including my two co-hosts for Pop Moses, where we did talk about Empire Strikes Back, and the whole thing was how long will it take for Tyler to bring up Last Jedi, and if I brought it up, I had to pay them. Yeah, I had to pay them $20 if I brought it up in the whole podcast, which I had to bring up and I had to pay, and and so I think with I'm trying to. Wait, sorry, what was the question again? Just so I can know I'm answering it correctly. It was
no, it's okay. I kind of lost track too, to be honest.
Totally cool. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
What I was saying was like, yeah. So like, anyways, what I was trying to say was like, I think you and I want to have different kind of content that's not out there, regurgitated content. Like a lot of YouTubers are just the same thing over and over and over and over again, and I can't stand it. Even if they do grow. If I were to be in the same boat and grow from it, I wouldn't feel fulfilled. And I would feel, I guess I'm just one of those people who I want to be different, and I want to offer a different voice, and not. And you also want to, and
I'm putting words in your mouth, but you also want to be yourself, right? Like,
yes,
creative
absolutely.
space is an area where you could have self-expression and be yourself, and like not tailor what you're saying to what's the most popular thing, but rather
I don't want to sound cool. I want to sound like me.
You want to sound like
that was the quote. That was like, yeah, there it is. You just put it on the screen. It's the worst quote of all time, but I said it and I mean it.
Well, it's also like, you don't know if you could carve out a niche with some ways that you would present content unless you do it. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like you're not those dudes are reinventing the wheel by having such similar content.
Yes.
And you're trying to invent something like a tank tread. I don't know, something that's not just a wheel.
It's funny.
That's different.
There's another podcaster who's the godfather of geek podcasts, Vito Lapicola, who's on our stuff a lot, and one of the greatest people in the world. And right now he has a very successful podcast. It's called So Fast, So Furious. Him and I have talked about it so much, which is about, he's the exact same way as me. He's older than me, wiser and awesome. And he's the same way, where he's like, he doesn't want to do anything that's relatively like anybody else's stuff. And so they started doing this podcast called So Fast, So Furious, where they talk about 15-minute increments of the entire Fast and the Furious franchise at way crazy length, with a friend from Screen Rant, and I forget what the other guy does in real life. I know he writes scripts. I know he's a screenwriter as well. But anyways, but they all do it, and they have like people from the franchise. Like they had the director of, I think, the second film on their podcast to talk about just 15 minutes of a Fast and Furious movie. But Vito is one of my best friends, but him and I've talked about it. And like the thing is, like with podcasts, it's like, that drives me crazy is like, listen to all these like true crime podcasts where it's just the same thing, same story, same everything that's just said over and over again with different things. And everybody's just trying to make their own mark as to be like, well, you know, in their own discussion, but they're always saying the same things. And it's great. And I'm not knocking them at all. It's just, if I were to do the same thing and know that these 8 other podcasts have said the exact same thing as me.
It's like watching different iterations of NCIS or something.
Yeah.
Like that, right?
Yeah. Or it's like watching any show on CBS. Yeah, that's right. I just jabbed CBS.
Ow. And for those listening, Tyler's
shrugging
like, and making why did I say that?
Like, why did I say this? Like, why am I CBS is fine. Like, I don't know why, but
shots fired.
Yeah. Take that, CBS, from the guy who cries himself to sleep every night. No, I'm joking. I'm fine. It's just I don't want to be like anybody else, I guess. And yeah. And you know, that might prevent me from having success and all these other things, but I also feel a lot of success being able to say, hey, my shows do offer this way, in this form or fashion. Like our Popmosis one is the whole thing is like, I used to be a critic, and Josiah, who is a screenwriter, and then Paul is just a casual moviegoer. So our whole tagline is a screenwriter, a critic, and a casual moviegoer walk into a podcast. You know, and we all have our completely different ways of analyzing a film. And so,
and those perspectives are what make, I think, the podcasts I've listened to so far so fun and so engaging. And, you get so many different perspectives, different tastes, different life experiences coming in on the same topic and media that we all enjoy. And it gives listeners different layers of appreciation to things that, either or you don't know.
I've been waiting for some. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But then, like, one thing that I won't do it because I don't know too much about it and everything like that. But I've always wanted a podcast or a YouTube video or a YouTube series of a skeptic talking about the paranormal, and I don't see that, and that's something that's really awesome that somebody can easily do. I won't do it because I have too much stuff going on right now, and I don't know anybody who would want to do that too. But I'm saying, there's really cool things like that where you have these paranormal YouTube series or podcasts of people who do paranormal investigations or are just in the fandom or just really, really love that kind of stuff and believe in it wholeheartedly. I would love just a whole thing where it's just a skeptic, not debunking it, just talking about it and talking about his opinions on it and maybe
his skepticism and maybe areas where he could see potential to accept.
Talking about the history of it and how it emotionally affects him and how he wants it or him or her or they too, or having this place has this horrible history, and these people are saying these certain things. How sad is that? And how would I feel in that? I don't know. Somebody should do that and let me know, because that would be amazing.
Sounds like a great idea.
I just came up with it too. I didn't even think about it before.
We might have to cut it out. You might call me later today and be like, "Nah, actually, I'm developing this idea."
No,
proprietary information.
I won't do that. I won't do that. I've done that before where I've guested on podcasts and then came up with anyway was one of those ones where I was like, I want a show where there's two people who just can't stay on freaking subject. And then I told them, I was like, hey, I know I said this on the podcast. Is it cool if I do this? And they're like, hell yeah. I was like, sweet. And that's how that was born.
Nice. Yeah. That's the one that I came off of listening into this podcast.
Yeah.
Well, we are 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I talked way too much.
No need to apologize. I've done 3 and 3.5. So, I mean, I could keep asking questions, but I think now is probably a good time to wrap up. Unless you have other directions or questions or areas that you'd like to explore here.
Oh, no. I mean, it's whatever you want to talk about. I mean, I have nothing else to do as a quarantine. I can just, today I went to the dentist and I had no idea I was going to get numbed up. I just thought that they were just going to because I'm getting a crown, and they were just like, we're going to check on some stuff. And then they were like, okay. And then a syringe came out, and I was like, whoa, what's happening? And they're like, oh, you're getting a temporary crown. I go, I didn't, not cool. I didn't know this. I was like, crap. They told me, it was like, yeah, we just need you to come in for like 15 minutes. And they did it in 15 minutes. And that was, yeah, it's crazy. I'm still numb. It's fun. It's fun and terrifying at the same time. And you're just like, oh, I can't feel it.
And then also,
I keep looking at myself to be like, is my face melted? Does it look like I'm like melting off?
And also knowing that you have to go back.
Yeah.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, I knew I was going to go. Like, that's why I just thought that they were just going to do the imprint and that was it. And they were like, no, you're getting that temporary one, the temp. It's like, sweet. I've been a temp before. I know how that.
I know how that feels.
I know how that feels.
I'll be sad to see it go, temporary.
It's been a great 2 weeks, but we're decided to go in a different direction.
We need somebody more permanent.
A little bit more stable.
A little bit more, somebody who could stand the test of time and my hard brushing.
Oh man. I had a temp job where I was in an insurance company where I was like the higher up and where I had to listen to like the real problems of people. And I try to be as empathetic as possible and stuff. And so just hearing the stuff, I'm like, I'm going to give you everything, whatever you need. and of course, that did not fly. When they told me I was the job, I was supposed to get a completely like just data entry job, but they said, your personality is so great. You're so personable. So I got this job and they were just like, yeah, you're breaking the rules. You're costing us too much money. And I'm just like, yeah, my bad, I guess.
I guess for giving me a job that was totally different from what you offered me.
Yeah. Oh man. Fun times.
Fun times indeed. Well, Tyler, thank you for joining me. This was a
thank
blast.
you for having me. This is amazing.
I would love to have you on again as the situation evolves. And like you said, I'll probably ask some of the same questions, but in a couple of months or so, as COVID and your podcast network continues to grow, the same questions will probably solicit really different
and resonate differently.
Yeah, different answers. So.
But no, thank you so much for your time. And this has been a blast. I love guesting on other people's stuff and talking. And I think this is awesome. I love your setup. I love your show. I think you are awesome. I don't know. I feel like we connected. This is good. Yeah.
Definitely. And I love and I relate to different people in different ways. And you have a higher level of energy than I do. But in terms of the way that you operate and the way that your brain functions, I think there's a lot of similarity there. And that always is good for me. And I always get a lot more takeaways from podcasts that, I'm talking about creativity and trying to get to the bottom of people's ideas and processes. And what you shared with me today helps me out personally as well. So thank you.
Oh, cool. That. Awesome. Yeah. Well, us with ADD or ADHD, man, we got to like stick together and stuff like that. I mean, it's so funny because everybody with it has completely different processes and stuff. Because I used to do speeches and stuff like that about living with ADHD. Especially like, since I was diagnosed around the time where ADHD really wasn't even a thing. I don't even think it wasn't even named yet, or at least ADHD has been around since I think 1902, if I remember correctly from my old notes and stuff like that, but it had just changed from certain things. And then finally like was redefined and everything around, early 2000s and stuff. But I was diagnosed with, they were like ADD super back in 95. And so, and for years, they just didn't know what the hell to call it and what to give me, because Ritalin and the Adderall were just like nothing to me. It was essentially just giving me candy. Like this doesn't do anything at all. So yeah, and but I've met a lot of other people and creators with ADHD and everything, and everybody is completely different, and it's just you just got to do your own thing, which is fantastic. So with you, I know you said you were undiagnosed, but like that's the thing is. Once you find a way to process and kind of keep on doing something and finding your niche as to on how to do it and do it to make you feel fulfilled and happy, like just keep going with it.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Well, that's a great sign off, but I'd be remiss. And I appreciate that. I'd be remiss if I didn't give you an opportunity to just tell everybody listening where they could find you.
You can find us on any social media, Instagram. Well, I guess the big ones like Discord, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm going to be focusing a lot more on Twitter. I'm so bad at Twitter. We're trying to get better at it. We also have our website, thegrandgeekgathering.com, where we have our 9 shows you can find on any podcast app and our YouTube as well, where we're going to have a lot more content and stuff. And I'm working on some other projects as well with some other people. Yeah, hopefully if you were in Southern California, come to a convention and we're probably going to be there in some form or fashion. We do live podcasting and then also our panels. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Check me out on Twitch as well, where we're going to be streaming and doing a bunch of stuff. And if you subscribe or donate, all proceeds go to charity always. And so, yeah, those are my plugs. And thank you.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you again. And until next time, everybody find your niche and enjoy your random.
Yes.
Fellow randoms, and welcome to the post-show debriefing, key takeaways, and areas where I think I could improve the podcast moving forward. It was a really fun, engaging, fast-paced conversation with Tyler. He was full of really fun stories, information about managing such a large podcast network, and certainly a reference for me moving forward in the future as I try to expand my podcast here at What's Your Random. One key takeaway from this episode, as per Tyler's advice, is to work with people who you get along with, because you're going to be working with them. So, finding people who you enjoy working with, have fun with, that can really go a long way in helping to mitigate potential and avoid potential problems and issues that would otherwise stifle workflow and creativity. And I mean, you can see, and I got the sense from talking to Tyler, and he shared with us that he is a very high energy, high activity person. And it was fun to talk with him about channeling our own personal moods, our own personalities, our own energies into creativity to maximize ourselves. And each person is different. Each person has different needs on a daily basis. And finding out what works best for you is another key takeaway from this episode, and something that Tyler and I both explored. We both think that we are honing in slowly but surely on a workflow that works best for us, and using our creativity to enhance ourselves and enhance our daily lives and enrich each day. So that was definitely a highlight and a key takeaway of this episode. As for improving the podcast, nothing really jumped out at me for this episode. You will hear, though, this episode's going to be released on December 31st, New Year's Eve, and I have a backlog of 4 episodes that I need to release over the course of 2 days. So episode 19 will be released shortly before episode 20, which will allow me to achieve my 20th episode being released within 2020, which was a personal goal of mine. I will, I'm sure, go on at length about that in the 20th episode, but I do want to talk about, in terms of improving the podcast and my performance, very satisfied to have achieved this goal, or be achieving this goal, on the precipice of hitting 20 episodes in 2020. I did take some time off for the holidays, which was much needed. And over that time, I realized that I was a little bit burnt out, just cramming in, sometimes 4 recording sessions in a week, and then trying to edit those down and make the thumbnails and release them and make the copy and make sure everything is spell checked, because I am a terrible speller. And recording these intros and outros, it does take a decent chunk a decent amount of time to do, and I really enjoy it. But when push comes to shove and you have deadlines, even if you set those deadlines for yourself, if you have deadlines, things can become a little bit stressful, tiring. You can start to overextend yourself. And I think I did so a little bit. And in creating this podcast, one of the last things I wanted was to make this a project that I couldn't keep up with. The whole point, one of the whole points, no, it's one or nothing. It's one of the few points, I'll say, one of the few points of creating this podcast was to make a project, a creative endeavor that I could keep up with on a consistent basis, something that would inspire me and provide me with energy and fuel. And trying to hit 20 episodes in 2020, crunch time at the end started to suck out of me a little bit. And I don't want this podcast to at all be like that. So I'm going to be strategic in 2021. I'm thinking one episode a week or so. So stay tuned, more to be decided on that front. But I did want to share with you all that, crunch time was crunch time. Push came to shove. I'm pushing it through, but it was not easy. And I did need a little bit of a reprieve to make sure that I'm doing it and doing it and doing it well. So that is my area where I can improve. Make sure that I keep doing it well and enjoying the podcast by not overdoing it. Doing it and doing it and doing it well. I hope you are doing well. I hope that you are pursuing your passion projects. I hope that you are pursuing your random, and I hope that you're enjoying all the random there is out there in the world to be enjoyed. 2021 is around the corner. We are almost there, and I am very happy to have you on this ride with me. So hope you enjoyed episode 19. Episode 20 is coming out just a few hours, if not minutes later, and I hope you enjoy that one too. Until next time, and then after next time, enjoy your random.